E56. This time we complete the duo of You Died, Gentlefolk, with the appearance of the sumptuous Gav Weir.
Hello.
And we are likewise proud to complete the Midnight Resistance appearances, and most honoured to have Mr. Sean Bell.
Well, hang on. Why am I not sumptuous?
You can be.
What error have I made to not be
lustrous.
sumptuous?
Think of a word for Sean to start us. I chose sumptuous for Gavin. I used proud and honoured for you, Mr. Bell.
You see, you went in too hard with sumptuous, and then there's nowhere to go from there.
Are you jealous because you sound like a gentleman of quite proud standing in the Victorian era, whereas Gav sounds more like a cake, the sort that will come on a doily.
On a blue china plate.
Gav, what kind of cake would you be?
Oh God, don't put me on the spot like this. I'd be a Battenberg.
A Battenberg, and would there be a doily?
Of course there would be a doily.
He's a man not afraid of being a fancy. And Mr. Bell, if you were a cake and not a gentleman of fine Victorian standing, which would you be?
Probably a Victoria sponge. Like generally unremarkable, but by God, when it's done well, fucking works. Yeah.
I think to add into this, I think one of my greatest Twitter moments was pointing out to Matt Lees, who is Jam Sponge on Twitter, that when he was eating ice cream, does he become Arctic Roll?
Oh.
What? It doesn't get any better than that. It's all downhill from there.
What cake are you, CJ? What cake are you?
What cake am I? At a particular coffee shop at the moment, they're doing a raspberry cheesecake muffin, which literally is a chunk of cheesecake rammed into a raspberry muffin, and it's amazing. And if I bring one home and stick it in the fridge and it goes nice and cold, and then I have a really hot black coffee with it, something like a Cafe Verona that goes really well with it, it is lovely. But it's not even cheesecake bits, it's a wallop of cheesecake just forced into the centre, and it's It is lustrous.
I know the coffee shop you're talking about. I might have to pay a visit to one. Well,
on the morning that we had all the new foods in, I obviously had to try them, and try them with coffee. So it was just like on this stupendous sugar rush, and then we had like a ton of arseholes come in. So I had this kind of poker face on, and behind it there were like these sort of bees of sugar and coffee that were going like, sting them all, sting them. But you know. Take medication to drown out the bees behind my face. I had a cup of coffee earlier when I was putting some notes together, so this is going really well. And that thing you were saying about, don't you ever sleep, it's far too late to have coffee. Yeah, maybe, we'll see. So, games to play into the midnight hour. Much like Dark Souls.
Hey!
But, what?
Does no one care what kind of cake I am?
Oh, sorry.
I presume a ginger cake.
Clearly the carrot cake.
Is it a ginger cake?
No, it's the carrot cake. But the kind with the icing and the little marzipan carrots on top.
Do you notice those things, don't you?
Yeah.
When we went down to London a year ago, I bought Pat this salad sandwich. He was like, "Oh, they use the good mayo." What? Like,
wait, can we rewind a sec? Did you say marzipan on carrot cake?
Like the little carrots they make, the little.
I thought you were replacing the cream cheese stuff with marzipan. I was like, the fuck, man, what carrot cakes have you been eating?
No. Have you ever had carrot cake soup?
What? No, is that a thing?
Oh, it's brilliant. I read this in one of the Penny Arcade books they brought out of like the comic in like a year of it in one book. Somewhere in the middle of that was a description of carrot cake soup. What you do is you take some carrot cake, the kind with the cream on top, and you chop it up into little cubes and chuck it in a bowl, and you add in a little bit of milk and you just smush it up. Oh,
that sounds disgusting.
It's sex in a bowl. you keep your fancy, highfalutin raspberry muffin bursts. I'll have some carrot cake mushed up with some milk, please.
Paddy Stardust, the LSD years.
We
did have carrot cake at work for a while, where it came with a little bag of tiny gingerbread man, which we had to sort of put into the end of each slice. And in the back of my head, it was always like picking one up and just running it across the ice and going like, "We're walking in the air." But you know, doesn't go down too well with management. We'll see. Anyway, I am going to start at the very beginning. Sean, When did you get into games? What did you play as a blighter?
Oh god, I didn't realise.
We're going back that far.
I thought we just did Souls history. I didn't realise.
No, fuck it. We're doing Parkinson.
It's important to have that touchstone of when you first fell in love with games.
Okay. So when I was 4 years old, we got a Commodore 64.
Yes.
And it had a game with it called Midnight Resistance, and that was it, basically.
You
couldn't get past the first level. No, it came with. It was the one that came with 2 sort of packs of games. One was called Night Moves. It was actually a better website name. And another one called, I think it was like Mindbenders or something. I just used to play Midnight Resistance loads and not get past the first level.
Night Moves would be Midnight Resistance After Dark if you were playing the Hollyoaks template.
Yeah, the Hollyoaks later version.
It's the one where you say rude words.
Playing it now, I can get past the first level, but then it gets really hard after that. Yeah,
there's lots of stuff like that on Commodore. Like I was reading a feature on RoboCop, and they were saying that that the bullets were far faster than any other versions, and even though the sprites were nice and the music was brilliant, that it moved too fast. And I was like, God, I aced that like time and time again. I think because we had so few games as a kid, your muscle memory is just delirious.
Well, you say that. We had a demo of, I think it was RoboCop 2, came with an issue of Commodore format.
Okay.
And the tape was knackered, as they often were, because, relying on magnetism to convey code is a silly idea. So the demo would only, it would take like 5 minutes to load, but then 95% of the time it wouldn't even work. And then occasionally it would load up, and then me and my brother, being small children, we'd be like, oh my god, RoboCop's worked. Okay, it's your turn, you have a go. And then we'd just like jump off the first platform and fall to our death. And be like, right, well that was that. Dad. That was like the only game I remember my dad having any time for, was RoboCop 2, because you could actually get past the first platform that you had to jump off.
You see, kids nowadays, they don't appreciate these things, like when cassettes or videotapes would come on the front of magazines, or things like trading C90s with your friends, and the advantage of having a double cassette deck at home. And also, if you went into the Atari ST and Amiga era, the computer club, which was essentially the gym at a sports centre filled with people that were copying games.
Do you know what's really bad? I had, when I was a child, I had a phase of thinking that I quite enjoyed listening to the tapes.
What, the load noise?
What?
Yeah, I used to just put them in my stereo and just find them quite interesting to listen to.
Like my mate Jeff.
I think it was like. I don't think it was genuine enjoyment. I think I just convinced myself that it was like a cool and weird thing to do, even though I was like 6 years old.
I suppose you were really surprised when you put a PS1 demo disc in a CD player, like, oh, actual music now.
Yeah, but Commodore
this technology's for me.
You'd only get kind of the first few beeps, and then you'd just get some astonishing piece of loading music.
Yeah, just yeah.
Although with music like that, my friend Jeff used to have one of these caravan televisions that used to have a handle, but you pull the handle down and it would tilt the machine up. It was almost like a video recorder type thing, but it had a telly on the far end, a black and white telly, and then it would probably have like a cassette deck on the top on the other side of it, and you could plug your Commodores and your Amigas into it and stuff and record video game music onto tape. So we used to make all these sort of massive mixtapes with it. It was awesome. Would you say that there's a point where you remember kind of falling in love with games, or something that you particularly obsessed over that made you go kind of, cool?
I don't know. I think they've kind of, like I say, as soon as I tried them, it was just like, right, cool, this is a thing I'm into, and then they've just never gone away. I remember like being sort of quite horrified with myself when I spent like a full hour playing Ivan Iron Man's Super Off-Road. And being like, oh my god, that's like a whole hour gone. Like, that's insane. And, obviously no idea what was to come. later in life. But I'd
Did you
happily
get your time
spend
with
the-
games limited? But when you were a kid, because there were some people at school whose mum would go like, you can have half an hour or you can have an hour on it.
I
And
don't
that
think
was
they
it.
ever. I don't think they ever needed to limit it because we self-regulated. Me and my brother, like I say, that first time we spent a full hour playing something, that was like, wow, that's really weird. Like I should probably go outside.
Different
Which is
times.
something I should have held on to that really.
Well, this is wrong. I'm going to do something else.
Yeah, where's my bicycle?
So what about yourself
down
then?
the one road that I live on.
What about yourself then, Gav? Do you remember sort of youthful exuberance with games and what
Absolutely.
stole you away?
I can't remember my age. I think I was probably about 6 or 7, but we got an Atari 2600
Oh wow!
in my house. I think we either borrowed it off my cousin or we brought it off them. But either way, it came with a game called Cops and Robbers. Which was like, I seem to remember it being a sort of Pac-Man platform clone sort of thing, where you're running around collecting stuff whilst things are chasing you. And pretty much from that moment on, I was fairly obsessed with games. Especially, there was a Spider-Man game for the Atari 2600, which was absolutely amazing. That obsessed me for a very, very long time.
We didn't have one, but my friend Darren had one. I used to play River Raid, and it felt like I was going through the trenches in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know if our eyes just blurred and filled in the gaps back then, but it was just one of those things where it's like, this is the most exciting thing.
Yeah, I mean, this Spider-Man was about 8 pixels, and you were climbing a building, but I swear to God, that was Spider-Man climbing an actual skyscraper in New York.
An actual one, yeah.
An actual one, yeah.
I remember at the end of the Batman game, the one that's based on the Tim Burton movie.
Oh God,
And,
yeah,
like,
that was amazing.
And you like punch Joker off the top of the tower, and then like as he lands, like in the film, like he obviously falls all the way down, and then as he's on the floor, there's like a recording of like the laughing, playing, and then like. And in the game, he sort of lands on the floor and like a little speech bubble appears that just says like "ha ha" or something. I just remember being like, "Oh my God, it's exactly like in the film. That's amazing."
Is that the game where you've got weapons like batarangs and grappling guns and Batman?
Yeah.
Isn't your fist named Batman?
Brilliant.
I know because the NES game was similar but not the same. This one was one of the first games that had different sections. Like you complete a level and then it would go into a racing level where you use the grappling hook to turn around buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
Although that was in 3D, wasn't it, on the ST and Amiga? But on the Commodore, it was side on, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was like sort of isometric-ish, but it was like you were just driving around. It was like little discrete sections of road. You would like it was never scrolled. You just like turn a corner and then it would cut away and then come back and you would be going a different. Yeah, bit weird.
Great
Bit
great
rubbish.
music by Matt Cannon as well.
Yes.
I remember.
This was the Batman game that some versions you just had a gun, isn't it?
What?
And he was just Batman just cutting about shooting a pistol. But
Was that
then
the
they
NES
corrected
version?
it.
Surely.
Then they corrected it to him just lobbing a batarang.
I remember Ocean at the time. They put out 3 different Batman games. One was by John Richmond and Bernie Drummond, and was an isometric 3D adventure, which was fantastic. It was the same people that did Head Over Heels. Was it Software Projects did one, which had an amazing Bob Wakeling cover as well, which was a kind of a big detective game, which was great. And then they did sort of Batman the movie, which was the first game to kind of give Ocean the formula that they then go on to use in the likes of RoboCop and the Untouchables and everything thereafter, really. But yeah, my Ocean nerdery. Pad, I don't know your answer to this question. When did you get into games? I validate you, sir.
I never got into games. Fuck them. Christ, I think I was 5 or 6. I think Mum and Dad. I think Dad brought home a BBC Acorn.
Ooh,
Oh man,
really?
Yeah,
that's
it was
harsh.
like
Are you going to learn like you're going to learn at school?
yeah, yeah, for school learnings. And I remember having the magazine and had like a program you could type out to do your game, and it was really boring. It was like you have a constellation, and you have to find the star that's wrong. So you've got Orion, but then there'll be a star that's just he doesn't have one over there, and that's the one that's wrong. that was the game. But I remember having to type it out like 7 times because
That's
I
harsh,
didn't
man.
know how to go back and delete stuff. I had to get it right in one go because if I stuffed it up, I didn't know how to change it. So I had to just restart the whole machine and start again. Took me like 3 days.
That's harsh.
It was
Learning.
hard, and I was a stupid young babby child that didn't just,
Could you not,
couldn't fathom it. I was like, I don't
Did you
understand.
not see this key saying backspace?
It didn't work.
Could you not retype? Because on when you are doing basic on the C64, you could like if you typed in the same line number again and then wrote something else, that would replace that line.
Again, 6.
But yeah.
I was amazed that things were coming out. I was pressing the keys and things were happening on the screen. Like, look at this! It says the letter T.
It's
You know that one?
It's really weird. Like not when I was like 4 when we first got it, obviously, but like later on in my childhood, like I actually like had a slight grasp of like using BASIC on the C64, which now like I couldn't even begin to try, which is weird.
But yeah, I remember trying that, and I had like a couple of games on tape. One of them was one of those adventure games where you're like, do you want to go north, west, or south? And every direction, nothing happened. I could never get further than about two quote marks screens on that game. It's like, oh, you've got to a castle, the door's shut. Knock door, nothing happened. Go south, can't go that way. Eject tape.
I know with the learning computers like the Spectrum and the Acorns and stuff, there was a thing at Game City a few years ago where they did Commodore versus Spectrum Argy Bargy, which was set above a curry house, and they were going to debate which one was better, the Commodore or the Spectrum, and the one that lost would get all of its belongings thrown out of the national video game arcade, which was great, and it was amazing. Like they had red tablecloths for Spectrum, blue tablecloths for Commodore, and they had all these debates as to which was the greatest machine and why. And they showed the original advert for the Spectrum, and it was always like, your child can do this, it can do all these things. And then it showed the advert for the Commodore, and it was like the mum and dad looked like they were out of Dynasty, and they were looking at their kid going like, our child is learning so many things. And the kid's got a game on the screen, he's clearly going like, It was ace. It was such different marketing, it was fab.
You see, I mean, obviously, I've already mentioned I was a Commodore 64 guy. I genuinely don't understand how anyone could think the Spectrum was better.
There was an interesting point that was made towards the end of the debate where it was an indie developer that was there was saying that because the Spectrum had its own individual look, whether that that was the colours and the colour clash and all that sort of stuff, that it's actually retained a unique identity that's come through to the modern day. Whereas you can look at a Commodore, you can look at an NES and stuff, and you can see kind of similarities and variations of each other, but the Spectrum's got its own look.
Because everyone else did it right, yeah.
Yeah, there is that. And you can just say the SID chip and drop the mic, I think, a little bit with the Commodore.
I mean, the Commodore 64's colour palette is still a baffling thing to this day. But at least the colours, all stayed where they were supposed to.
Yeah, and you got some of the world's greatest musicians on there.
Exactly.
Pioneers. Let's go to Souls. Dun, dun, dun.
Aye.
How did you find your way to the Souls games, Gav?
I remember hearing about this ridiculously hard game from Japan. And I didn't have a PS3 at the time, and that game in question was Demon Souls. And I remember reading about it and just thinking, that sounds like a proper effort to play. I don't think I'd enjoy that, so I skipped it. I then heard about its sequel, which was coming out on the Xbox, and I think I saw some screenshots, and it was probably a shot of the gaping dragon. And I was just like, I want to play that. I want to defeat that thing. I want to fight it. I want to figure out how to kill it. It looks incredible. So I I was at work. I went down to the game, brought it.
Where's Gav? It's just like a door that's going like chunk, 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 and like papers slowly floating down on either desk. Is he okay? Is his family okay?
Comedy cloud where you just left.
You should really vacuum that carpet.
I popped down to game, I picked up my copy, and I think it took me all of half an hour to just try and figure out what the hell was going on. Like, it was probably the most confusing game I'd ever played at that point, just because it was so different control-wise and everything to how, how games I'd played up to that point had actually played, because I'd never really kind of dived into anything past the mainstream sort of AAA titles. I think at the time I was probably a big Call of Duty player, which makes me say, no, I'm sorry, it's not my fault.
It's fine.
But you weren't there. So yeah, I think it took me. I gave it another week or so, and then I think I just went and traded it in because I just wasn't getting on with it. And then I think similar story to what Gav Russell said on your last But One podcast, where he watched the Matt Lee's Pants Man videos, and all of a sudden it was just like, well, he's completing it in his pants, quite literally at the end as well. He was wearing just his pants. And I just thought, well, if he can do it like that, then surely I can do it. So I picked it back up. I think it was £7 or something ridiculous on Xbox Live Store at the time. And yeah, I just played it, and I think it took a little while to click, obviously, but when it
So
clicked,
what changed at that point? And in your original run, did you go Undeadburg or Skeleton Graveyard?
Skeleton Graveyard. Of course I went, because I remember the Skeleton Graveyard. I wandered there and I was just like, skeletons? I can take these guys, come on. But yeah, I quickly found out that I couldn't take those guys.
I've seen Jason and the Argonauts. Everything I need to know is right in here.
It's a fantasy RPG, skeletons, the first bad guys. Of course I'm going to take, come on, one hit, dead. But yeah, I think in my first run I got as far as... I didn't get to the gargoyles. I remember that much. I think I got to the armoured bull. And I'm pretty sure I didn't get much further than him. Because I seem to remember, at the very most, taking on one of the Boulder Knights and thinking it was the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah.
At that point, it was the first thing you see in proper armour. It wasn't one of the hollows in their battered, sort of, rusted old armour. This was an actual knight with glowing eyes and stuff. And
they can parry you as well, can't they?
They can parry you.
Yeah.
Which I
They
found
sort of
out
they telegraph it quite a lot, don't they? They sort of hold the sword out in a certain way, but it's still
The first time you do it, you won't know what it's doing. You take a big swing, and all of a sudden he's knocked you sideways and stabbed you through the heart.
Well, that first one telegraphs it. The second one holds the rapier really close to his chest. So if you try and kind of go near him, he just insta parries you and then sort of stabs you. That lad's still a sod.
Love that guy. Yeah, I don't know what else had changed though. I think it was just an attitude change of well, clearly this can be done. I've seen someone doing it with no armor, basic kind of weaponry for most of the part. If I remember his run, he didn't really use shields much. And I just thought, if a guy can do it like this whilst talking on a stream, surely I can do it if I'm playing it properly.
I think it was a great stream as well.
It was a really good stream. Yeah, it was one of the best things Matt Lees did. I think it still is. But yeah, I think it was just that kind of attitude change of oh, that's how you play the game. Because I always assumed it, because it's an action RPG. I'm the hero. Let's go batter my way through this world and kill some big dragons. But you're not the hero. You're just a guy kind of wandering through a land, and you have to kind of take that.
What changed between? I know you looked at Demon's Souls, but you didn't fancy it. What changed to make you kind of pick up that initial Dark Souls?
I think it was just the challenge. I like all the talk of how hard it was and stuff, and I was just like, you know what, I'm up for that. I think after playing kind of like I say Call of Duty, where it holds your hand quite a lot, and I think the only thing I really remember playing at the time was Arkham Asylum, and I remember that being fairly tough in places. But no, I mean, I think honestly it was just all the marketing talk of prepare to die and all that. It kind of got to me. Oh, and plus, I'm a big kind of, fantasy nerd, so seeing knights with flaming swords, it's just, you've won me over already.
And where does that sort of find its roots within? How did you get into kind of fantasy stuff? Was that younger as well? Or?
Oh, yeah. So that just comes from films you used to watch, obviously you just mentioned Jason the Argonauts, all those kind of... all those kind of Harryhausen films, all the way up to your kind of Disney fantasy. There was one called Dragon Slayer that I used to watch religiously as a kid. I absolutely loved that film. And yeah, just all the little fancy things like that. He-Man, obviously.
So what about yourself, Sean? Going back to the initial jump into Souls, I guess.
So I was already a fan of From Software due to my repeated attempts to get into Armored Core.
Yes.
Over the years, played a few of the Armored Core games on the PS2, and sort of got them, or enough to enjoy them a bit, but then never enough to actually finish them or be any good at them. And then Armored Core 4 like really clicked for me, because I, talking to people on forums. Do you remember forums? Talking to people on forums, and actually getting some tips on how the game's supposed to work and stuff. And then so really got into Armored Core 4.
Was 4 Miyazaki, or was it 4 Answer that was Miyazaki?
Both, I think. Yeah, it was that. And then so then started hearing about Dark Souls, which again, like you're saying, it was a weird one because the sort of the YouTube communities hadn't sprung up around it and stuff. There was like a few articles and just people I knew being like, mate, you've got to check this out. It's weird. So I got, it was one Christmas I asked my brother to import it as my present, because this is back in the day when there was just no, like, wasn't even any plan to bring it to the West, and found it massively hostile in quite a refreshing way, but I couldn't handle it. I got to, how far did I get? Which is the giant spider boss?
That's 2-1. Yeah, 2-1, isn't it?
Yeah. That's where I'm at currently, actually.
There you go.
Cool.
That's as far as I made. I defeated it, and then like saw the next area and was just like, no, I think I'm out. Because I don't know. I should probably try and go back to it with the knowledge that I have now. It's probably not half as bad as I remember.
There's a certain amount of stress though to Demon Souls that's reminded me of like the first Tomb Raider game where you got the save crystals that you get to a certain length and you'd be walking so slowly and you'd have the telly turned up and you'd be listening to everything around you because you could be going like 45 minutes back if you didn't find it. And Demon Souls is very much like holding your breath, listening to everything around you. And even going back to Dark Souls yesterday, and I know this was in some Demon Souls stuff that I watched again recently, like listening to breathing, like when you'd hear like and you'd be like, where's that? And it certainly did push those buttons even before it started doing like little ting and stuff like that. Eventually on like 3-1 and stuff.
So that sort of happened, and then I never made any further progress. And then Dark Souls obviously came out, and obviously had a much warmer reception, but still there was a good few months, I think, where like only certain people were playing it and talking about it, and like no one knew what Humanity was, or what Kindling did, or and it was like it was really interesting being part of that first wave of figuring things out, which I think is something that is missing now.
What you mean, the all kinds of everything, kitchen sink stuff? But yeah, it really did build up an audience so organically, and even in the points where there were no games coming out, you got stuff like journalists going, right then, let's have a go at that Dark Souls. And it would constantly be there, and more people told other people, and there was something really kind of quite natural about the way that those sales built, and it did all right sales wise as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, being an Armored Core fan for so long, I'm happy that From have found something that actually makes them some money. So, but yeah, I'm one of these people who, like, obviously I'm getting Dark Souls 3 and I'm really excited about it, but part of me is like, yeah, but I miss not knowing a fucking thing. Like, I mean, obviously, no one forces you to watch the YouTube videos and stuff, but you've seen screenshots, it's basically the same thing, and it's got humanity in it and all the usual stuff. And it's like, even like with Bloodborne, it was like, right, so insight is humanity, and
they've found their niche, haven't they? As it were.
Yeah, but
mechanics.
Yeah, but I would really like it if they pulled the rug out from under us again. which obviously is a hard thing to do because, like I say, they're making money now, and that's not such a bad thing when they've lived in obscurity for so long. I don't hold that against them, but it'd be cool to see them take some like stupid risks at some point.
Well, I think with
They have said it's the
Kadokawa
last
owning
Souls
them now,
game.
that
Sorry.
yeah, I mean Kadokawa owning them. Kadokawa's a massive company, a cash-rich company. So I don't think. That Kadokawa's first move was to put Miyazaki in charge was a really good thing, and we've not seen the first fruits of that yet because Dark Souls 3 was greenlit before he took charge.
That's true.
So the curiosity as to where things go from there are interesting. Plus, in that interview with Miyazaki that Sam Ahmed did, you got the where you touched upon fantasy mech stuff and Escaflowne and it really. I've said before, I really loved that interview because it seemed like Miyazaki really took a shine to him, and because it wasn't just your standard stock questions, and they were both kind of nerding out about the same stuff. That he got a certain portion out of Miyazaki that very few people do. Yeah, I think Tamor had that same kind of resonance with him recently, where he started talking to him about Soul Reaver and stuff, which was just really neat.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see a big robot game, but in the sort of the Souls format. Whereas, because I do think there's a lot of shared DNA between Armored Core and the Souls games in that. They're all about sort of figuring out builds, and obviously there is an incredibly tight action game there as well. But Armored Core is sort of depends on you building up a suite of sort of different schematics and stuff for different missions, and each of those missions is discrete. Whereas Dark Souls is all about you build your character up over time, and it's this one consistent thing that you take with you wherever you go. So I think it'd be amazing if you could have an Armored Core game that was just look, here's your one robot, and you've just got to make do with what you find and sort of build it up as you go, rather than just be okay, well I'll just go back to the workshop and just buy some bits and put them together and.
Well, it's like a kind of Gundam War in the Pocket sort of thing, whereby you're actually in the middle of a war and you're cobbling together this robot rather than it being kind of all kinds of everything. Could you see a mixture of maybe a Souls type game and an Armored Core type game? I.e., that if you were that soldier that you created and they took you into missions into big bases or massive landscapes or places where you had to get out of the mech. You had to do other stuff, infiltrate, and then there'd be a point. Say you're being chased by loads of stuff, and you got back into the mech, and it went back into the third person behind the mech, and everything changed from there.
See, that sounds amazing, but Xenoblade Chronicles X is very good, but once you get the robot, you don't ever want to be on foot again. When you get the skells, they just totally supersede ground combat.
Yeah, I heard my friend Ellie was saying that kind of it takes away a lot of the discovery and the journey of it because you can just get there in about minutes.
I actually really enjoyed that aspect, but it was just you'll do everything in the skull because it's loads of fun, and then you'll do a story mission where there's a cutscene where you're on foot, and it makes you do a fight on foot, and it's I've forgotten how to fight on foot. I haven't done it for about 10 hours. I've forgotten what all my moves are and what they do, and I'm dying. And why can't I just get in the robot? So I don't know. I think if anyone could make something like that work, it would be basically either From or Platinum. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what the next step is, because if something's announced at, say, an E3, I think all eyes will be on From in maybe the same way that they were on CD Projekt Red with Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And if they announce, so if they show off something that's not just Souls with a different skin, that's maybe taking them on a notch technologically, and gameplay wise, it'd be, I don't know. I think they've got the chance to make a real impression, and it's not just Miyazaki at From. There's a lot of other talent, some that we've seen and some that we've not. So
and I think they're a big enough name now to strike out a bit, beyond Souls or Bloodborne. So I don't know. We'll see.
So I'm going to jump onto Scholar then, because
Yes.
I know both of you have been playing it, and I'm going to jump to Gav first, because I know that you've intimated that you've had quite a complicated relationship with it, and I'm kind of quite curious at this. So did you start with Dark Souls 2 on last gen?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was a very kind of first day adopter on that game. Obviously, I think, as Gav Russell said when he was on, he gave us the history of the You Die blog, as it were, and we did start it just to talk about Dark Souls 2. And much the same as him, once kind of got us to a certain point, I realised there wasn't much to talk about. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. The first time through, I really enjoyed it. It was only when it finished that, without spoiling anything for anyone that's not actually played it, it just didn't really add up in the way that I wanted it to. Like there was lots of hints to Dark Souls 1, and they felt more than hints. Sorry, in the sense that like there's like, oh, this land used to be called something else. Oh, this has happened before, and you know, like you'd bump into the old Dragon Slayer, and then there'll be like hints towards other characters, and you'd be like, oh my god, where's this going? This is going to build something. This whole place used to be Lordran or something. And then it just doesn't really go back to it or tie it up, and that's it. It's just kind of dropped. You know, like there were threads of like I can't remember the guy. The king's brother is like continuing someone's research. It's
Aldia.
Like, oh well, Aldia is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay, Aldia. We'll go with Aldia. And it's like, oh, he's continuing someone's research from long ago. And it's like, oh, who could that be? It's Seath, isn't it? Oh, it's Seath. We're not going to tell you. We're just what research? What are you talking about? Go away. And it just kind of drops all these hints that are just never resolved, and it left me feeling really bitter towards the story. But
I think there's a dividing line there as to whether kind of, and I'm wondering if Dark Souls 3 is going to do this, where it's going to get to a point and go kind of, here's Solaire. And whereas Dark Souls 2 did have that, I don't know, the sincerity, I guess, to state that this is a land that is renewed. There are tales that have been told, which have changed or haven't, but it's very much its own land. But there are similarities there. But
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I like those aspects, and I've got a feeling if someone turned around and said, "Oh yeah, this place used to be called Lordran," I would have absolutely hated that even more than I hated it dropping me. You know, but it just all felt a little bit like, oh, this is Dark Souls. You know, it's kind of like dropping those hints just to let you know that it's still connected.
Yeah,
but they felt a little bit too heavy to not add up to anything.
Yeah, I like that it was a different place, because I think if they'd have said this is the same place, I'd have spent the whole time looking at the geography going, well, that doesn't fit.
Yeah, definitely.
That clearly doesn't go up there. Like, that should be over. No, they fucked it.
They kind of did that with Ulasil anyway. They played that card with the DLC with the original Dark Souls a bit. So to do it again, I think might have been. Don't know.
I think so. Yeah, I think that like I said, my only problem with it is that they kind of shine so much focus on these connections that for them not to actually add up to anything like significant was a little bit of a tease almost. And yeah, they probably should have just left them as real subtle hints, and maybe throw the old Dragon Slayer in there as well. That's fine, because that was a cool boss fight. I like that guy.
Yeah, I mean,
it did kind of leave you wondering if there would be more of those direct, like character references in there. Because I wondered. That was it. I'm sure there was. It was New Game Plus where I got up to that fight again, and I saw a message on the ground that said "fatty," and I was like, "Oh my god!" Because there were already changes in New Game Plus, and I was thinking, "No!" And I think that would have been kind of a really cool opportunity to do that. But
Hold on
yeah,
a second.
yeah. Sorry, Sean, I interrupted.
Oh, you're right. I was just going to say, I had this struggle with Dark Souls 2 where I, as I imagine a lot of people did, I was picking up on these hints that, like, there's some weapons that are like, this is an attempt to copy a long forgotten technique, and it hasn't really worked. And it was like, is this them saying, like, look, we didn't really want to do a sequel. We know there's no way it's going to match up. Like, this is a shite copy of what has gone before. Or not a shite copy, but, like something that could never live up to... Yeah. Could never live up to the weight that's on it.
Well, they've got the on the floor, they've got the Life is But a Dream stuff as well, which I always thought was quite interesting within that regard.
Yeah, and I couldn't decide if that was like the smartest thing they could possibly do or a rubbish cop-out. And like, it's sort of summed up by the ending, which is just like... Because, obviously... Everyone figured out the first Dark Souls, and we got that it was, whatever you do, it's kind of, there's this cycle, basically, of dark to light, and there's not really anything you can do about it. Like, you can resist it for a bit, but, at the end of the day, the cycle's going to work the way it wants to. And Dark Souls 2 just took that to the next level by not even giving you a choice at the end. It's like, look,
it's
what happens. It's already happened countless times, just don't worry about it.
Look at this lovely chair. Go on, sit down. Yeah,
have a sit down and get closed in your little tomb, and apparently that's
Rot
you a
away.
king. Yeah. I mean, I liked Dark Souls 2 more than most people. Like, obviously, thematically, didn't stand up so well. I thought, it's more of an enjoyable game, which I suppose is sacrilege to a lot of Souls fans. It didn't, first Dark Souls, it really got to me. I felt genuinely depressed playing it. I think there's quite a few of us have all had our other halves say look, I don't like you when you play that game. Whereas Dark Souls 2 was just cool. I was just enjoying it.
Would you say it was mechanically better, if not from a lore perspective? That's how I see it. The lore's better in Dark Souls 1, but mechanically Dark Souls 2 just plays really good.
Yeah. And it felt a bit more like a power fantasy in the sense that I felt like within one character I could have Dark Souls, I had this one sword and shield and set of armor that I used for the entire game because I didn't really see any point in changing, whereas in Dark Souls 2 I was like, right, I've got my Haid Knight sword in my right hand, and then I've also got a bow, and then I've also got a great sword, and then in my left hand I've got a shield, and I've also got the sun sword, so I can do so general build was sword and shield, but then also I can two-hand that, or I can get my bow out, or I can get the great sword out, or I can get two straight swords out and then power stance them, and it felt so much more malleable. I felt like I could sort of respond to situations a lot better, whereas Dark Souls was just this is your character, specialise or you're fucked. Basically, so I felt like there was more freedom there, and also with Dark Souls 1 there was the equip load limitations, and the style of roll you got as a result was a huge thing. If you wanted that fast roll, you had to keep your equipment right down, whereas Dark Souls 2 is a lot more lenient. Again, I can see some people hating that. I just felt it allowed me to have a character that wasn't just wearing a t-shirt, which was nice.
I've tried to. I continue to try to analyse the differences between the first and second games, and especially going back to the original as I have sort of from yesterday. But it feels like the first one perhaps has the more resonant characters, but the story is really you're one step away from this world ending, and everything that you do is probably fucking it up even more. But there's this real absolution about it, and I think that it's the characters that tie you into where that story's been beforehand. Whereas with Dark Souls 2, there's a huge story that's there, but the world is just drifting.
Yeah,
that the world has fallen apart. Decisions have been made, but I think the story itself in Dark Souls 2 is better than Dark Souls story, but the characters in Dark Souls tell a story which makes it resonant.
Yeah, and famously, half of Dark Souls 2 is only necessitated by some rubble that gets in your way. Which they really curious that they didn't fix that for Scholar of the First Sin. For all the things they did improve, It's like, just put a massive wall there. It's fine.
So like, you don't even need to jump that rubble. It looks like you could just step round it as well.
Yeah, if it's real life, you just clamber over it. Done. No Shrine of Winter, thank you.
What brought you to Scholar then, Sean?
Steam sale. Like Steam sale, and sorry, I sort of skipped a whole chapter here.
Cool.
Dark Souls 2 I played on the PS3 when it first came out. Enjoyed it well enough, more than most, I think. And then started hearing this stuff when the DLC landed, and people were like, "Oh shit, this is actually Dark Souls quality." So then Scholar of the First Sin came out, and then Steam sale, £12. Yeah, go on then. And now obviously with Dark Souls 3 on the horizon, so right, if I don't have a look at this DLC now, it's never happening. So which I think a lot of people are in that boat.
I'm in the same boat right now.
And by God, really glad that I decided to do it. Like, not just for the DLC, but for the changes made to the main game as well. Some of it, like, it's really interesting how I'm appreciating bits that they've made easier, and also laughing when they've made bits harder. You know, like, there are certain bits where it's like, oh, thank God there aren't those two archers guarding the bit before all the spiders, and yet sometimes like an enemy will just come out of nowhere that I wasn't expecting, and it's fine. Like, it's just funny, like, because it all feels like, as well as just being better, it feels like it's designed for people who already played Dark Souls 2. Like, you know, an enemy just coming out of nowhere and hitting you is not funny if you're doing it for the first time. It's just kind of irritating. Whereas knowing that you weren't expecting it, and knowing the developers might have known that you weren't expecting it, it's just like, you dickheads.
I had a really good one of those today, actually. I've been blasting through like the main game content, just kind of finishing it through. I've only really got the DLC left to go now. And I was taking on the Ancient Dragon, which on my first run, I aggroed before getting the memory thing, and had to pay 200,000 souls to get pardoned so I could talk to him and get it back, because I couldn't beat him.
Wow.
Yeah, don't fucking arrow the dragon before you pick that up. It's the lesson.
Why did you attack the dragon when it was just sitting there?
It's a fucking dragon.
But it wasn't doing anything.
They're never nice.
What, Paddy, don't make out that you're a braver person in real life than you actually are. Like, it's a dragon!
It was poison
Get
arrows
in my
from a
way,
distance.
I can't get to the supermarket, can't get the
I will
car.
slay thee.
My bravery was done through my act of trying to poison him from miles away.
Oh, that's my entire Dark Souls playthrough.
But I went back there today, and I'd done his kind of memory stuff before. I was like, right, well, I need to kill him because I've got Vendrick to do, and if I do this, it'll make Vendrick easier. Okay, so on we go. And I did really, really well. Like the way that level's changed, where you go up and the dragon guys are just sort of looking at you, was kind of fun. And you're like, oh, they're not fighting, they're just looking at me. That's kind of cool. And I fought the dragon. I actually took only one hit in the whole fight, which I was very happy with. Because I remember being stuck on that dragon for like a fucking week in the original game, and I kind of just stayed behind him and cut his tail, feeling really good about myself. I was like, yeah, killed the dragon, got all the souls. I turned the camera around, and there's like 9 of the dragon guys just running through the door. They're like,
fabulous.
What did you do? Like, I didn't. I'm just trying to find my homeward bone. Hang on a second. I didn't have it equipped. It was too late. I couldn't do anything, and they absolutely battered me.
Because that's a cool little quirk in Scholar anyway, where they just kind of nod to you. They just bow a little as you go past, and then clearly if you do that stuff, that's the point where they all charge in and try and get a slice of your arse.
I laughed my head off. I was pissing myself. It was brilliant. The only slight problem is like I've left 130,000 souls in there now. Shit. But luckily they don't aggro when you go back. They seem to like be totally chill once you go back. They're like, yeah, it's fine. Carry on. You've had your slap on the wrist.
How's your run been going of Scholar? Because I know we've not really spoken for a while, and I know you've
So last time we spoke, we had just done a bit of Dragon Lake Castle, haven't we? We've done the 2 dragon riders in there, and like made fucking stupid work of them. That was really fun. Obviously, because we were trying to co-op it, and time's moving on now. I don't think if we were to co-op it, I don't think we'd get anywhere near close, like to finishing off before number 3 comes out. There's no way. There's just not enough time.
Our shifts are quite different, so it's
just podcasting's hard enough, let alone games.
Often we're at odds with when we can kind of jump into this stuff, which is a shame, a real shame.
Yeah, I come in the room by one door as you've just left by the other. It's just it's sliding doors. But I decided, right, I'll push through. I'll leave the DLC, or left at least one of them anyway. I'll leave the DLCs alone. I'll just get the main game out of the way. And in about, 2 days, did most of the rest of the game. So I went through Drang Lake, I took out the Mirror Knight, I went down through Aldia's Keep, I got the King Ring, I went through the Undead Ditch, Shrine of Amana, which absolutely pissed this time. Everybody says it's got worse. I think it's got easier.
I love that level. I really love it.
Just get a magic shield. It's not hard.
You see, I'm poison arrows all the way where I can. But otherwise, I'll just walk along like Sproink. You're dead. Sproink. You're dead.
Just a combination of shield and roll, and get up near them, and just greatsword them right in the chops, and that's all you need to do. Just
mind you, those lads that are wearing kind of the bath mats run like buggery at you from a distance, and there's often 2 or 3 of them, and I'll be like nope, like running as far as I can, and then like turning back and going like like cartoon footsteps afterwards, trying to get my way back around.
Oh, see, I took the other stance with that. I think, did I co-op that with you at all? I feel like we did.
I think we might have done.
Yeah, we might have done a bit in there
PS3.
because you were trying to sort of.
I don't know.
Yeah, I've co-oped it with someone. I can't remember because I think you were trying to shoot them with arrows. And I was just running in with my sword, going "Fuck you!" Boom.
Yeah, those strategies generally tend to line up quite well.
Yeah,
with kind of getting up close and then taking things out from distance.
Yeah, as anyone who's played the Destiny Sparrow Racing with me will know, I really like running in shouting "Eat shit, loser" as I crack someone's head off, and this gives that to you a lot. Like,
see, I'm at Shrine of Amana, and just as I was there, just for some reason, don't ask me how it happened, but I noticed I had the item that gives you access to the Ivory King DLC. So then just went straight for that because I was like, well, that's kind of why I'm here anyway.
Yeah.
So, it annoyed me. I don't know why I got the item for the Ivory King first. I don't seem to have access to the others yet. I was hoping to work my way up because I know Ivory King's the 3rd of the 3, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
And I knew it was the snowy one, and I am a total sucker for snowy areas in games. So I was hoping to sort of work my way up to that. Whereas now that I've done most of that, I sort of feel like maybe I'll just stop and wait for Dark Souls 3. But yeah, man, the Ivory King stuff, unbelievable. So
it's
good.
Magnificent. And that little touch, like when you go up to the coffin and you can see some of the invisible.
Found the coffin.
You can see the invisible guys, and then you go back to the
that coffin.
The bit where
Sorry.
Yeah,
thinking of the different coffin.
Then you go back to the shaded woods and
Yes.
All the guys that were phantoms you can now see and hear. And there's no reason to go back there. It's just somebody at Prom's gone, hold on, you know what'd be cool? And I dig the heck out of that. And also, I mean, as a level, it turns back on itself, it twists, and the boss fight, where you drop down into the boss battle and he's screaming like "Die!" at you when he's sort of jumping in like Artorias. What a fight! What a fight!
Like him in and of himself is like he's pretty fun to fight. Like his moveset's quite limited, but I need that because I'm bad at the game. But I don't know. Are we okay spoiling things? I don't know what.
All right, we're good with this. Yeah.
Go ahead.
The whole design of it and getting the other knights to help you and sealing the portals and stuff, and just man, so good.
So I'm not close to that stuff yet. We've only tickled into the ivory. That was one of our last co-op sessions we did. Yeah. We kind of tickled in, and I went left at the start and got bitten by an invisible tiger.
Yeah.
And then got invaded twice by the same guy, and we thought, should we leave this for the night?
Was it an NPC summon? Because there's a few.
Nah, it was definitely a human.
Okay. There is a really quirky trick which I'm not going to mention on air because Pat's not got near it yet. But there is a real question mark over something at a certain point in the game, and you know what I'm talking about, and it's so good. It's so good. Did you? Yeah. I know we talked on DM a bit, but did you venture down into the coffin and into?
No, I've still not found the coffin.
It's so good. It tore me inside out. It was one of those where it was like, why? Like really screaming my head off about. But it was the classic Dark Souls thing of like, if what you're doing isn't working, what do you change? And eventually sort of, I think that was the first point where I really went to like a massive shield and I armoured up a little bit, and every time I made a bit more progress and then faltered, I'd sort of change something out, and but it's astonishing, and it's an optional level. But this comes back to the little bit of a being my bonnet that I've got with Yui Tanimura, in that he came on to Dark Souls 2 when they had a lighting engine that wasn't working and a game that was broken, and he came and he put the game together and got it shipped on time. He did what he had to do then as solo director, came on, did all the DLC within a matter of months, which is crazy. Then wouldn't let it go, then started putting Scholar together, getting the extra continuity between the levels, and just... And yet he's still sort of touted as not Miyazaki, as if he's I don't know, not good enough. And I don't know. I'm in awe of the guy, and he's never come out and really, raged against the fan base. He's always just sat back and, as we know now, he's working on level design for Dark Souls 3 with Miyazaki. So it's the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, so the Ivory King place, LAM Lois, is like, it does have a lot of the ugly repeating textures and stuff, but I mean the actual the layout of the place is like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like Bloodborne level.
Did you like rolling in the snow and getting covered in snow?
I did. Big fan of that. And just just the layout of it. Like, there's not as much fancy dressing. There's no like mad statues everywhere and stuff. It is like kind of like it's noticeably last gen in the way it looks, but just like you say, the sort of the way the design sort of folds in on itself, and then gives you like meaningful reasons to go back through the level, but it doesn't feel like shitty backtracking. It's like, oh right, shit, okay, so now I need to think about doing this instead, and it's just, it's wicked. Really, I
think because the bonfires are off the beaten track a little bit, there is almost that Demon Souls aspect of, oh thank God.
It's the first time in Dark Souls 2 where I've been like, oh my god, I need to find a bonfire soon. Whereas in sort of the main game, they're quite sort of generously placed, I think.
But there's still that kind of almost that paranoia of like, I can't really sit at this, because if I have to go back, I can't go through all those lads again.
So, Gav, did you play any of the DLCs at all?
Never got around to it. I didn't. I think I'd long got rid of the game by the time they actually turned up on last gen. And I've borrowed Scholar off a friend. I have then gave it back to him. I brought Scholar, and I played it for about a week. I then traded it in. I have a bit of a confusing relationship with that game. Because listening to you guys then talk about that DLC, I want to play it so much. It sounds incredible. Like, snow levels are my big weakness in life. If like,
I now honestly, pronounce you man and man.
I think CJ, you shared a shot of the snow level in the DLC, and I was just like, oh my god, that looks incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it made me want to play it, and listen to you guys when you last talking about this with Gav and Pete. I was just like, that sounds amazing. I can't buy this game again. And now just listen to you guys then talk about it, like all that stuff with knights helping you out to seal doorways. I'm just like, my brain's jumping around inside my head. It wants to experience that, but I can't go through that main game again. It's a wall that I need to get over so I can experience that DLC, because I really, really do want to, because everything I've heard about it sounds just amazing. And the way you go on about it, CJ, as well. I've never heard anyone talk about a computer game like that before. So, like, if it's made you be like that, I want to experience it. But that main game just has too many issues with me to get.
I think sometimes when you fall in love with a first game as well, like, so hard, sometimes you can't get near sort of even something that's similar. I know that through Bloodborne, which I didn't didn't click with, and through repeated tries, it's just I don't know. It's a level of frustration because it's something that I really want to like, but where
sounds like you have
there's
the
a
same
point where you
problem with Bloodborne than I do with Dark Souls 2. Like it's just a bit too similar. But whereas Bloodborne kind of like engulfed my life and still does occasionally when I jump on and start another build. Dark Souls 2 I just felt nothing really towards, whereas sounds like you've had that exact same problem but in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean obviously it suited the podcast a little bit because Pad fell into Bloodborne in a big way. I fell into Scholar, and we were on different sides of the divide, which was kind of, it felt a little bit serendipitous in that kind of way.
As we were saying last time, we almost like the same thing.
Yeah, we do. This is the strange thing when we were talking on the last the Humanities, and we were talking about comics that we read when we were growing up, and films that we watched, and it was literally sometimes crossovers, and then sometimes just a little bit left of centre from one another, and we still have our differences on games because there was stuff on your games of the year list which were my most hated games of the year last year, but that's what makes it fun. I mean,
That's not Shovel Knight.
No,
don't, because I've already bitten off 3 of my knuckles so far in this conversation. I don't have many left.
No, but it's all right to disagree on stuff if people are articulate about why they don't click with it and why they do. That's what makes games.
I'm always
writing
willing to listen to
fun.
someone as long as they don't just go, "Oh, shit innit, mate."
Yeah.
Like the way what you say about Shovel Knight, I'm like, yeah, fair enough, I can see that, but I absolutely adored that game.
Yeah, everybody.
I thought it
seems
was
to.
incredible. But
See, I couldn't get on with it. No, I'm sorry. I don't... But no, like you just reminded me. Like this seems to be a thing on. I find this more and more on Twitter these days, where I'll just tweet about enjoying something, and then just get replies like, "No, it's shit." Like, really? Oh no! I must have not
was wrong.
enjoyed it.
Sorry.
Like,
Yeah.
I appear to have
like,
mistyped
come on,
that tweet.
who's got that much time to just be like, "No, you're wrong. It's bad. The thing you
Exactly.
like is bad. Stop it."
I think I dared say that I was looking forward to Far Cry was it Primal?
Primal,
yeah.
yeah.
Far Cry Primal, and I just got like people just telling me that no, it's gonna be shit, mate. It's Far Cry, shit innit? It's like no, I quite like Far Cry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm really sorry, but I enjoy those games. I mean, it turned out Far Cry Primal was a bit shit, but not my fault for liking it.
It's like like I've got a thing, a bad one about Assassin's Creed. But I don't have a go at people for liking it, or not anymore. I've grown out of it. I just it does, it baffles me. But if someone wants to sit down and talk to me about why they think it's great, I'll still listen and hopefully get it. Like I would love nothing more than to suddenly discover there's this massive franchise that I've just suddenly clicked and I can play the whole lot and really enjoy them. It's not going to happen, but there's the possibility.
Those games are unapologetic. If you don't like them now, they've done nothing to convince you otherwise.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I like them because they're easy and familiar. Like every December, I can sit down with that for about a week and just play it and enjoy it.
Yeah, but that's why I stopped liking them, because I've done it all before. I don't have the energy to do all these.
Always new buildings to climb, Paddy.
Yeah, but I've climbed a building. I've stabbed a guy. I've picked up a fucking feather. I've picked up that feather. I don't need to follow that man and listen to him talk about trade disputes for an hour.
Wait. Follow the man, but don't follow him too closely.
Yeah. Watch out, he might see. Oh, he's heard. Oh, do
he's
it
got
again.
around the corner, you've lost him.
Sit on a bench.
start
Sit on a
again.
bench.
He's
Quick.
going to start his conversation from the beginning again, just for your benefit. But don't look at him. That's why I found Black Flag so refreshing, because half the game was just boat, wee boats.
I love Black Flag. But again, I convinced myself that because Black Flag seemed to be about a character who wanted to be at sea and sort of resented the whole assassin thing, I was like, right, it's cool. He's not enjoying the sneaking around bits either. Like we've got this shared resentment for being on land. We both just want to be at sea.
Yeah, I liked the main character Edward in number 4 because he was just a bit of a dick. I like that. They should let him be dicks more.
They should do what was the guy's name from the second one? The best guy, I can't remember his name.
Ezio Auditore da Firenze.
Yeah, that guy.
Him.
He was a massive wanker. Yeah. He was a great character at the same time. And they've tried to replicate that with the new guy, but he's just a prick. Like, there's nothing likable about him.
What's that in Syndicate?
Yeah, Syndicate. I loved it at first, but I've kind of gone off it a little bit now. It's a bit dry. London's nice, though.
You see, I loved Unity, so I stand on my French box and go, oui. I loved Unity.
I know someone who loves it more. One of my friends who is not going to listen to this, they've named their new baby Arno.
Brilliant.
Oh, wow. That's a decision, isn't it?
That child lives in a place called Lee Park, which is it's a council estate. It's a shithole. It's where I grew up. I'm allowed to say that. It's a shithole. That child has to go to school in that town with that name.
Shit.
That child's
Poor
fucked.
Guy. Yeah.
It's okay. It was only me and CJ that liked that game, so.
Although every now and again I'll kind of have a little bit of a burst on Unity on Twitter, and I'll get the opposite thing where I'll get loads of people that'll go like, I really loved it as well, or like, oh, was it good? I'm playing Syndicate at the minute, but I heard it was shit. And you maybe get a few people that pick it up because it's dirt cheap and just go, oh, this is really good. Paris is massive and it's bustling and it's alive, and I tend to get a little bit of a bee in my bonnet that the media picked up on, the bugs that they found and stuff, but they didn't.
I'd just like to say, throughout my entire game, I didn't get one bug.
No, I haven't.
And I was playing it from like day one as well.
It's
I didn't get any bugs,
but
I had my Ubisoft account hacked by some Slovakian lad.
I remember you.
I remember that.
How desperate must he have been to have hacked your Ubisoft account?
It's interesting, because since then I've had my Netflix account and my Spotify account hacked, right? So obviously someone's got an insight into my passwords, and presumably could do all sorts of things. But no, they just wanted to watch Doctor Who and listen to One Direction. That's all. That's all they did.
Brilliant.
Like, that bank account's fine. Just I couldn't use Spotify because it kept playing One Direction on a phone I didn't recognise.
Either that, or you've got some sort of like secret personality.
I'm just trying to explain
Czechoslovakian guy that's really into Doctor Who and One Direction, and that guy should appear on the new Midnight Resistance with some stock European voice, and then making lots of sort of One Direction and Doctor Who nods to things, and slowly winding Andy up.
This is the thing. Like, there's any number of TV shows that could have appeared on that. It comes up with like continue watching ... and there's like a bunch of shows that you watched, and there's any number of shows that could have come up on there, and I would have assumed it was my wife, or I don't know, just whatever. Like, wouldn't really have batted an eyelid. Could have been RuPaul's Drag Race. It could have been, what's the Housewives of Miami. Any of that shit wouldn't have batted an eyelid. But I was like, fucking Doctor Who? Doctor Who? Who's been watching Doctor Who on my Netflix account?
Look at the lengths Sean's going to pretend he doesn't like One Direction.
I know.
It's hacked.
It's all a cover. Well, that was the best part, was the One Direction thing, because obviously Spotify posts. Sorry, we're not really talking about Souls games anymore, are we?
We'll get back there. It's fine.
Drastically off topic.
We have more than One Direction.
When I found out someone had been manipulating my Spotify account, basically I realised like all day they'd been listening to One Direction, and it had been posting to Facebook. And I was like, did nobody notice this and think to say something?
Everyone's just like, yeah, Sean's listening to One Direction.
Yeah,
that's fine.
And my own brother was like, I did think it was odd. Like, yes, it was.
No, seems legit. Yeah.
Just got this wonderful vision in my head of them bouncing through Revolution era Paris, like singing at the top of the voice these pop songs. And again, what in my head is probably the stock European accent that I'd use for any country in Europe. And if I knew a One Direction song, I'd sing it in that accent now. But I don't know any of them. I think there's one on the work playlist, but I can't remember it at this point.
Yeah, there's one on the work playlist. I definitely didn't put it on there.
I will return us to Souls then, because I have been trying to complete Scholar of the First Sin on Xbox One, and I'm on 99%, and have been for quite some time. I was off last week and my quest to finally tidy this thing up came to a head. I'd smashed into the game, sort of funneled by fun, enjoying it and wanting to just keep going. It had hit into my life when, personally and emotionally, I fell into it head first. I started noticing stuff and really fell in love with it. At the time, not just finishing but 100%ing my first Souls game started knocking about in my mind, but my head still wasn't attuned to quite what I had to do to get there. I'd seen something that said there were a number of faction spells that could only previously be earned but were available to buy from Chancellor Welliger in NG++, but that only turned out to be partially true. If I'd been mindful of this from the tail end of New Game, I'd have started tidying up various bits and bobs there, but I really didn't have any idea that these particular bits had to be achieved. Xbox One's got this handy feature that's now in the guide where you can not only see the trophies that you have and don't have, but you can see the percentage and amount that you are off completing them. And I realised I had a list of 8 things that I needed to do. Foley. So I had 2 sorceries, 3 pyromancies, and 3 hexes. One of the sorceries I had to get to rank 2 of the bellkeepers. One sorcery and a pyro I had to visit Navlan, but as a hollow, and accept his missions and give him or show him that I got 2 items, which never would have crossed my mind had I not looked it up, because he treats you differently apparently if you are human or hollow.
That's right. Yeah.
So I had to show him the aged feather and
was it a step ladder or some shit?
Yeah, it was the guy that sits by the big hole in Medulla. I had to buy the little step ladder toy from him. I've got to get Outcry, which I have to trade with Strayed, the soul of Nadalia, Bride of Ash, which means I've got to get 12 pieces of her from the Iron King DLC, which ain't easy. Let me see. I've got there was Fire Snake, which was a pyromancy that is in Broom Tower, which I got, and then there's the hexes. One of them is to get to Pilgrims of the Dark rank 3, which is hard as balls, especially in New Game Plus where I am now. And then the Life Drain patch, which is to trade the Dark Lurker soul with Strayed. And Dark Lurker is a boss that you can't summon for, splits into 2, and I honestly don't know if I'm good enough to beat it.
I've still never done it. I can't. I've tried again.
I can't even get to him.
I can get to him fine, but I just can't. I can get to the split, and then it's like, well, that was it. Good run.
So yeah, I started cracking into these when I was off, and I got the 8 down to 3. So I've just got the one of the things to do in Crown of the Iron King, and the 2 hex sort of bits. So I'm nearly there, but I don't know. The game means tons to me, and to be this close to 100%ing, it is frustrating and kind of exciting as well, especially as I started scribbling all the bits off of this piece of lined paper that I got. But yeah, somewhere amongst that, something else kicked in, and it related to the journey leading up to this, and sort of threaded a line back right through to the original Dark Souls. I've mentioned before, time again, but the love affair with Scholar of the First Sin came with a story that a listener, Neo Loki, shared. His stepfather, who'd been a hero to him his entire life, was suffering from Alzheimer's and no longer remembered the times shared when they were younger. And at this point I realised that, well, Neo Loki really identified with Lucatiel, who'd come to Drang Lake looking for a brother, but every time you see her, she was losing her mind, and you were centering her, and they related that to what was happening with their stepfather, and that was their the way that they fell into the game. It was at this point that I kind of clicked that it wasn't the cliche of a curse spreading over a fantasy line, that blood ran deeper than that. It's the tale of a king who sees what it is to be human, the times we shared, the people we've known, the memories we've made, and all of those were being stripped away from his people. A king who commits huge atrocities to counter this, just splitting and splicing and experimenting, peeling away each aspect of human and dragon souls, crossing the fucking oceans to steal an item which infuses life into the lifeless, and in turn bringing the blight of war to his lands. A war he wins, by the way. A man who has his heart stolen and ear bent by a queen who herself was born of darkness, of curse, who could in turn be responsible for the curse. A queen who incidentally brings peace and focus to her husband. But then we go back to Dark Souls and it's like, well, she's one of the many fragments of Manus. A creature born from the furtive pygmy, of humanity who was ripped apart by the people of Ulasil, driven savage and wild, and yet at the centre of Manus was dusk. At the centre of that which was driven mad was its opposite, a will to bond, to hold close, to love. All of these fragments of Manus seek and find love, going beyond the end of that world to be reborn within the new. And when we find the queen, she's missing her husband, seemingly split between the woman on the throne and the monster that exists below the castle. When we find Vendrick, he's gone, he's lost. He's tried everything to solve the problem, but didn't. And yet in the Three Crowns trilogy, we find that uniting the crowns stops hollowing. It stops it. The answer was there, and yet Vendrick zigged instead of zagged and made the wrong decision. And yet, to jump back to sort of Neo Loki's connection, that having Lucatiel there, this woman that was so determined to go beyond her own curse, her own life to find her brother, and is losing her mind, took me again back to Dark Souls, where we arrive in Ulasil and we discover the fate of the fabled, the magnificent Artorias. When we find him, he's a broken man, sword in the wrong arm, the other arm broken, locked in an arena and driven mad by wave after wave of beasts clawing at him. Everything is a threat. A man who laid down his shield, who surrendered his very being to protect a wolf pup. And yet when we defeat Manus and return to Lordran, Dusk believes Artorias saved her, that he saved them all. The man who chose the most righteous, selfless choice, we rescued his legacy. And then kind of when I wrote down that list of final things that I needed to do, I kind of realised that I got Lucatiel's armour set. And I just thought how lovely it would be, having fallen into the game with a story that's a real world happening that glued me to this game and anchored me to it, to go through these final moments and complete my 100% sort of wearing Lucatiel's armour and stuff, and sort of rescue not only her legacy but bond me even further to that real world tale. So things became, I don't know, I got a little bit emotional about it at the time, and it just seemed like a really fitting way to go through it. And I think with that determination that I mentioned to strike those things off, and kind of a little bit of a full heart, everything just started tying together, and I got lost a little bit further. So yeah, that's where I've been with it. So
I think there's no small coincidence the number of people who found stuff in the Souls games speaks to them with regards to dementia.
Yeah.
I know I've got a couple of friends who found, there's obvious parallels to be drawn with Hollows, and not just the way they act and feel, but the way they're treated, like really badly, is not unlike people with dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's or something else. Obviously, we don't corral people with Alzheimer's and put them in a jail, but there's certainly an element of marginalisation to it, and yeah, a lot of people have picked up on that over time. I think that's...
I know there are quite a few people who struggle with depression that have found kind of their either distraction or even steps beyond it that are learned. I know I did within like the original Dark Souls and stuff, that if I couldn't do something or I was panicking, to like, well, take a step back, what would you do differently? assess the situation, and that I kind of pulled into the real world and stuff. But there are things like Shrine of Amana, where you get the Milfinito, and they're like, when we sing the little ones dance, and they bring happiness to those that are submerged. And the creatures, I often find depression is like having your head held underwater. So I connected that to it. And then even the other day when I was going through stuff, well, you got the Milfinito that are in Shrine of Amana, and then when you get to the Undead Crypt, you've got the Finito, the male versions that are looking after the dead, and the people that have gone there to either find Vendrick or protect Vendrick, and have died themselves and joined them. So you've got the Milfinito sort of looking after the people that are just lost and submerged, and then you've got the Finito that are looking after dead and don't bring light down here, don't bring hope. So all of these things, like, these are gentle little items that often I'll notice, and then it will just send dominoes toppling to other stuff. And yet, I don't know, it comes back around again to people thinking that Dark Souls 2 just hasn't got a story, and there's a lot in there. I mean, it's a big game anyway, but to say that there's not been a degree of thoughtfulness and finesse in there, particularly in Scholar, I think is intriguing to me. Yeah. But I know that I'm probably submerged in that a little further than most, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I've touched on the DLC now, and I've done Ivory King, and that's sort of it. Like I say, I may stop now. I think that might be me ready for Dark Souls 3, but like, it's been cool having played a bit of it and being able to just watch, like Varty's videos and stuff that delve into the new meaning it brings to, not just to the ending and stuff, but to the series as a whole. Because apparently Dark Souls 3 is going to tie in some stuff from Dark Souls 2 quite nicely, as well as Dark Souls 1, which is cool.
I think I'm going to leap into the back of my sofa when that happens. Genuinely am, because I know there was a Kotaku article that I skimmed over where they were saying, there's loads of stuff tying into Dark Souls that's in Dark Souls 3, and then they almost put as a jokey footnote, like, somebody's found one that ties into Dark Souls 2. Lol. And that was the one where I kind of had to click it, and I was like, what? And it was only like a sword or something, but it was still it kind of, I was made up about it because it hadn't been forgotten, and I like to see both stories sort of whip together in this world where the flame dies and it's turning to ashes and dust and stuff. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of Dark Souls 3, then.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the elephant in the room?
Let's talk about Bamco misfires.
What the fuck are they doing? What the actual flying fuck are Bamco doing? What the fuck?
It's funny you should say flying fuck, and what are they doing? Because I believe they're hot wings.
That's lovely.
Firstly, as someone who doesn't really like hot food, I'm a little bit marginalised by that one. Like, sure, I'd like the t-shirt.
Are you saying it's ableist?
It is, it's ableist. I don't like hot food. It's not fair. They're excluding me like I was excluded at school because of my hair. Like, it's happening again. To give that context, there was once a lesson in PE where there were mats on the floor and you had to go and find someone who had the same colour shoes on as you, or you had to go and sit on the mat with someone who had the same t-shirt as you, and they did go sit on the mat with someone with the same colour hair as you, and I was like, well, fuck you then. and I think I cried.
God, being a child's awful, isn't it?
It's awful. Try being a ginger child.
What were we saying? Oh yeah, the thing that got me about the hot wings thing is that hot wings aren't even a suitable gastronomical analogy for Dark Souls. What you want, like Dark Souls food needs to be food that, like, so when you reach it, you're already like absolutely starving and feeling quite desperate and weary.
Hollow.
And then and as you try and put it in your mouth, it either turns to ash or it like escapes, it, like jumps out and starts running away from you, and you have to spend like 3 days hunting it down and you just feel like you're going to actually die in real life. And it's just depressing and frustrating.
If you're hollow, it would be like the Dylan Moran thing where he says like, "Oh, chefs get all this food and they marinate it in the duck's tears." And for most people, they reach their hand into a bag of bread and dip it in anything runnier than bread.
Do you think maybe like a more sensible time would maybe be like drink these 12 bottles of Sunny D?
But Pad, you've done Dark Souls food and drink vids.
I have.
So it's not difficult for them to do something that's kind of cool. Because Pad did, I did a
pizza, a Solaire pizza, and we did crow nests, where if you put a mint imperial in them, it turns into a sword. And I made an Estus cocktail as well out of gin and Pimm's and Sunny Delight.
Nice.
And then the non-alcoholic version,
which is Sunny Delight.
Yeah.
Last year they opened up a restaurant in Japan, didn't they?
They
like
did.
A Dark
That
Souls
looked really
one.
good though.
Yeah.
Why can't they just do that again? That was some nice
Don't know.
subtle advertising. Like, I've just jumped onto Kotaku here, and there's Dark Souls tea. What's that got to do with anything?
That one I kind of thought was kind of funny because it was so doofy. Like doesn't even make any sense. Like I think, well, do you know what it was? I saw a while ago that I think one of the Bamco accounts was just tweeting that they were drinking their Yorkshire tea, and Yorkshire tea were like, "Oh, cool, you like us," and that's where that came from.
Okay,
So
that's
the one that makes a vague bit of sense and doesn't seem shit wasn't Namco Bandai's at all.
Yeah, that was actually that. Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading the article now. It was actually sent from Yorkshire Tea to them. So yeah,
Jesus.
That's good.
maybe that was them dropping a hint.
Because I
love
tweeted about
Yorkshire.
this the other day. I was saying, like, obviously everyone's slagging off the hot wings thing, myself included. However, I would be well up for a Dark Souls Happy Meal.
Yeah.
Oh my
Because
god!
that just
I would
feels
say
like that's just obviously rubbish. So
A
fine.
little
why
tiny
not?
praising Slayer toy.
Yeah,
No, I've got this for you.
Yep.
You'd have something that
100% buy that.
was bigger
A little mimic
and
toy.
more unstable than a big tasty, right? And the thing that would keep it together would be like, how you get swords in cocktails that hold like fruit and stuff. You just get one of those and make it look like fucking Firelink Shrine. Literally, you'd insert that sword, and it could be as cheap as fuck. But you put that into the top of a burger bun, and it essentially turns the top of that burger bun into a bonfire.
And this is already better.
Yeah,
than the hot
And
wings.
then,
Eat
and
20
I mentioned this
fucking
on
hot
Twitter,
wings.
and then suddenly loads of excellent puns started coming out. Saim Ahmed suggested praise the bun, stick that on the
nice.
box.
yeah.
And Gary Dutton suggested a little slip of paper at the bottom of the box that says "You dined."
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Lovely.
And then I was like, "Fucking hell, undead burger." Obviously.
Oh,
Oh god.
They do look like burgers.
on the side of your drink, it could say, "I'm churging it."
I imagine that the meeting in Bamco was they were like, right, we're going to address this meeting, and somebody down the other end of the table was just like, hot wings. They were like, we could do Dark Souls hot wings, and he was like, yeah, and he was just talking about what he wanted to get after work.
Well, no, I reckon it's like, so we want a tin of food. Okay, so what's Dark Souls? Dark Souls is hard, right? What food is hard? It's either fondue or.
when did you live? 1970.
Saw it on telly the other day. Shut up.
See, let's get on to food chat. Let's go all the way. I have I have issues with this sort of this increasingly sort of adversarial relationship people seem to have with food. So I hate this all, like, oh man, it's like the hottest food, or it's the biggest burger you've ever seen. Yeah, it's like, no, just stop it. It's gimmicky rubbish.
The Dark Souls
enjoy
of food.
Yeah.
See what you did there, Thad?
Fuck me.
I don't need to win a T-shirt to have a good meal,
The T-shirt's so tacky as well, though.
I haven't seen the
I've not even
T-shirt.
seen the T-shirt.
It says on the
No.
back, "I survived the Dark Souls hot wings challenge." # Dark Souls wings.
That's fucking rubbish.
Why couldn't it just be an exclusive T-shirt of like the knight or something? The guy on the front cover. Or
Because that would have been a
like
good
that.
idea.
The weird thing is there is some fairly decent merch that's emerged, but I'll go into that a little bit later. But I see that Bamco are auctioning off that box of tea which is presumably going to be sold to those sort of people that could afford that £200 limited to 2000 edition that sold out 30 minutes into an Amazon listing when I was at work.
And the limited edition, collector's edition fucking strategy guide that comes with an Estus flask that isn't even hollow.
Yeah.
That's such a misstep.
Are you kidding? So you can't even put stuff in it?
No,
you can't put anything in it. Nope.
It's little as well.
Yeah, it's really tiny. So, but yeah, all of that will probably go to some sort of banker or Barry Mom jeans with stupid amounts of expendable income or inheritance. We had some lad kind of like that in store the other day. Turned out he worked for the same company, and when I asked his name, he was like, "Oh, it's Lloyd, like the bank." What?
Brilliant.
Clearly slumming it with a paw for a while, yet obviously one step away from popping his knob betwixt a pig's lips and readying himself for life in politics.
Nice.
So yeah, Dark Souls 3 is out in Japan with a potential region exploit. PS4 and Xbox One are in native Japanese, but the exploit is where if you region switch, pay for the game in yen, then region switch back to either UK or US and download the game, the Xbox One game will play in English.
So that means that on Microsoft server right now, they have the English version of that game, and they are not releasing it. Those.
Do you know what I saw? Do you know what I saw is why they fucking staggered it for quarterly profit reviews or something like that. It's like, no, give us the fucking game, because now it's out there 3 weeks before any of us can, any of us mere mortals who can't region switch their machine or don't live in Japan or aren't insane, they just want to play the fucking game that exists already. And we've now got to navigate the minefield that now is the internet. I mean, I've been quite lucky because I think I followed some lovely people on Twitter. So far, I've not seen a single spoiler on Twitter or YouTube because I've filled my recommendations with shit.
Have you seen Bandai Namco's statement with regards to all the bile that's been thrown at them about the drift between release dates?
Go for it.
And also people getting advanced copies of it as well. They said, "Thank you for all your passion about Dark Souls 3. We are planning to implement an important patch on the release on April 12th. The patch will contain fixes and implement online, ensuring Dark Souls..."
Thanks, God.
Yeah, you get the rest of it. But yeah, it was really weird. And then Kotaku put something up saying an article by Patrick Klapek saying the problem with streaming Dark Souls 3 so early, and talking about the game is essentially what it's done. So and he said that I was surprised when a code for the PC version of Dark Souls 3 showed up in my inbox a few days ago. Hadn't crossed my mind to even ask Bandai Namco for a review copy of the game yet, because it was a few weeks out. What surprised me even more was how relaxed the publisher's approach to covering it was going to be, allowing writers and streamers to freely publish information about parts of the game well before its April 12th release date. In other words, the game is done and it's just not out yet. If you're hungry for a new Dark Souls 3, details yesterday was a feast. If you're on media blackout for it, it was a nightmare. And if you're someone that just wants to play the game, it was a terrible tease. Although, people in the comments seemingly going like, well, don't watch the stream. I'm so sick of entitled gamers. You get the game on release date that was announced. If you don't want any spoilers, don't watch any streams or YouTube vids. So are we being entitled about this? Or is there a point?
I think it's... Yeah, when it gets to the point where it's genuinely difficult to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, when I'm having to go out of my way and not use things like YouTube, or purposely fill my YouTube recommendations with wrestling videos so that I don't get the Dark Souls ones that would normally be there.
I may not have done that purposefully. That may have been by accident.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's probably by accident on my part as well. But yeah, thankfully it is just full of wrestling now. But the fact that I might have had to have stopped using these services that I just use day to day. I mean, I work at a computer, so I have TweetDeck open on my desktop, and I just flick to it accidentally sometimes. It's like, oh no, didn't need that. And the fact that I would have to think about not doing that for 2 fucking weeks,
just
in case I didn't get a spoiler.
2 days I could live with.
Yeah,
Like,
I
couple of
do that
days,
every WWE
sure.
pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to skip it for like 12 hours.
You have to kind of
But
just not look at stuff, and but like,
and I'm fine with that.
3 fucking weeks.
Yeah,
Like,
that is nuts.
And the fact that the streamers are allowed to just put it up there, and it's out there now, and the medium, like they can stream it, but the reviews aren't out for a few days yet. So what's up with that?
I think that I saw something that's saying that they're only allowed to stream the first third of it, which is a bit weird if you've got people that are actually natively in Japan who the game has properly launched for.
So yeah, you can't tell them what not to stream.
They can stream what they fucking want now, and the fact that it's now out there, like the longer it's out there, the harder this is going to be.
I think the thing is, like I mentioned before, that when I sort of had hands on with Dark Souls 2 before release, when we were warned away from a certain location, which was the old Dragon Slayer. We were told that if we got near it, we'd be asked to turn around. So they were keeping that really cool connection to the original Dark Souls away from people. They wanted people to discover it, and yet I know when the first sort of footage came out, I was like, oh right, I'll have a look at sort of an opening level or whatever, and then there was a connection to Dark Souls 1 that was just there, and it wouldn't have hurt to click that out. Why wasn't somebody at Namco saying like, oh, you know, you can show this, you can show the run, you can show the boss, just nick that out, those few minutes or whatever. And yet on YouTube thereafter, it was just like, you know, cornflake dragon boss battle, or you know, like the equivalent. Those were the headings that just went along. It's like you're naming bosses, and then it was like, here's your new hub, and they named that. And it's like, do you really? And it's just frustrating because you look at the way that while most people who were looking forward to Bloodborne had gone dark on it, the way that Sony marketed that really kept that away from most people. It was still. It was still a curiosity. It was still, as much as people knew, they had no idea of what was to come, which was fantastic. And if
I don't remember having to particularly avoid anything when it came to that. That was, you know, there was a few trailers, I think, and then the game came out.
But the trailers did such a good job. The cool stuff. Like, so many people
they did
going,
such a
like,
good job of like just showing you just like split-second flashes of bosses and stuff. Like, fuck,
I think
what was that?
The very first trailer that Dark Souls 3 put out, there was flashes of things. Like I think there was actually no, I won't say just in case anyone's completely gone dark, but there was hints of little things that just made you sit there, take a screen grab and go, what the fuck was that? What is that? What is that thing? Is that going to be a boss? And that was cool. That was fine. But from what I've heard, I've not watched any since then. But what I've heard, they are very much going like, here's a boss. Sorry, here's a boss. Here's another boss. This is another boss. And yeah, it just seems so strange that they would do that, knowing that their community is built on people who have discovered these things for themselves. Yeah. Almost.
It's not even intentional sometimes. I mean, I know when Bloodborne was out on YouTube, Polygon, I think, were putting out like a series on the site of like, you know, this is this boss, this is this boss, and they're being quite cagey with the headlines on the site. But on YouTube, where it just turns up, it's like, Rom, you're like, what? Who? And like spoiler pictures right in the thumbnails. You're like, fuck off! I've only just got it yesterday. Like, go away.
That's not.
Again, I kind of wonder what kind of audience Namco Bandai are aiming at with this, because they've now, all of the people who really are close to the series are going dark and unsubscribing from like Twitch channels, from YouTube channels, and everything. The references that they're letting people use in these videos aren't going to mean anything to the people that are coming to the game for the first time. So are they just sort of considering that audience that's gone, that's not watching anything else, are automatically getting it and just throwing the kitchen sink into everything else to snare other people in there? Part of me wonders, you know, like Sean was saying, if they are going to tug the rug from under us at a certain point. But I see numerous videos with slowed down indie versions of old pop songs playing over the top, and I have a vision of Barry Mom Jeans behind it and just going like, that'll be great.
Yeah,
they've just applied sort of very typical vanilla AAA game marketing to something that doesn't necessarily fit.
They're marketing
is
it
that
like
because
it's
Dark
fucking
Souls is
COD.
bigger than that now?
Yeah, they're marketing it like it's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But if I remember, the same thing came along with BioShock Infinite. That had the marketing of that was very much like, here's a girl, she has boobs. Here's a man, he's got a gun. Like, but that game
40
was
quid, please. Yeah.
yeah. But that game was obviously much deeper than that. It had a much better story, and the marketing could have taken any angle from like the floating world city to like all the other stuff in that game. But they obviously marketed it towards the sort of people that watch those adverts and are convinced by them, which is like your standard, everyday gamer who buys FIFA and COD every year and would go, oh, that's got a gun in it, I'll buy that too. So maybe they're trying to do that with Dark Souls and just aim it at the people who wouldn't normally buy it and assume that everyone who, like CJ said, everyone who's already a fan isn't paying attention to this crap anyway.
But
like the fans are going to buy it anyway if we can just make it look flashy and grab a few idiots along the way. Why not?
But all they've done by doing that is they've soured those of us that are going to buy it anyway, because of course we are. Like, all it's done is like soured my opinion of Bamco so much now. It's like it's like, okay, we get that you want a lot of people to buy it, but it's like you don't care about the guys that made it popular. Like, you don't care about the existing fan base. You're making this next month a absolute nightmare. Maybe this is the true Dark Souls. I don't know.
You've been playing it all along.
Maybe it's an ARG. I don't know.
they did. The game's on. Sorry, go on.
No, go on, John.
I was just going to say when Bamco first handled an Armored Core game, I think it was Armored Core 5, and they put this trailer out that was like, it was like heavy metal in the background and just robots stomping about, and the tagline was just something rubbish like "Go big or go home." And I was just like, mate, you can market it like that if you want, but if you just market Armored Core as a straight up action game with big robots stomping about shooting stuff, everyone's gonna hate you when they actually buy it. Because I
think that's
what
actually
do you
what's
mean I have
always
to
put me off
spend
buying them.
like? Yeah, it's like, what do you mean I have to spend half my time in fucking menus looking at numbers? Like,
reminds me of the last couple of trailers from Metal Gear Phantom Pain. Like, the last kind of like Kojima trailer was brilliant, and the one that followed straight after was like just the blandest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
But when you mismarket something in the way that Sean mentioned there, it just means that everybody that then sees another product in the series or another something from that company, they're going to look at it with kind of wary eyes, because they're just going to think, well, what is it you're really selling?
Oh, that's the Hot Wings game. It won't be known as like the how we all know it now as Dark Souls, this incredibly intricate, well placed, challenging game. It'll be Dark Souls, the one with the chicken wings. Is that how they actually want their product to be seen?
Yeah,
the thing
it's
is,
like
at the end of the day, if this game sells absolute gangbusters, maybe our opinions just don't matter for fuck, because the bottom line is Bamco have got to get the game sold. Maybe they're just this is it. The kitchen sink is to reach as many people as possible, and knowing that Bloodborne brought in an audience that wouldn't normally go near a Souls game, perhaps that's it. It's just throw everything at the wall and see how much of it sticks, even if the regular fan base can smell exactly what you're throwing at the wall.
But boy howdy, should there not be a better way than giving it to, again, quote marks, influencers so far ahead of time that are just going to flood the thing with it, and they're the only ones that are going to get like the true, unfiltered, like clean run without having to work for it.
Yeah, but you're getting people like Epic Namebro, who's basically said he's turned down early access to the game in both a preview and in a code, and he wants to, on day one, go in with the rest of us and be excited with the rest of us and to see it unfold from there. And for somebody who is was the original name in Souls videos and has so much influence, for him to take that stance, he's a fucking hero. And you very rarely get somebody that gets to that level of influence that shuns being Hollywood.
And that must be so difficult for him as well, with who he is and what he does.
Well, I think because he's written the guides as well for Dark Souls 2 and the two Bloodborne ones.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe a case of maybe being a bit burnt out and wanting to go in and get hyped up with the get
maybe.
excited about something, have something in the distance that's unattainable for a while, and not have this degree of I know all these things, and be excited with the rest of us, presumably in the same way as he was with the original Dark Souls.
I remember he mentioned that he turned down the chance to write the guide. I'm not sure if that was part of this, or if it was because of the change of publisher. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I'm speculating, obviously.
Must ruin it to an extent. Like
I can imagine, because I think I was watching the guy who writes the guides with a German spy. Yeah. I was watching one of his videos, and he was doing it. It was his first playthrough of Bloodborne on his channel, and he was like mowing through bosses, like just because obviously he's fought them like 9, 10, 12, 40 times or whatever to try and get the strategies down, and he was getting comments saying, "Why are you doing it like this? I need to see how to fight this boss." And he was just like, "Mate, I wrote the guide. I've fought this boss like 50 times already. I can't be asked to fight it the hard way again." So maybe it's a case of that, just getting completely burnt out on playing the game like hundreds of times before the releases even happened. And then when everyone else is sitting there buzzing about it, like Epidemia is sitting there going, "I can't play this anymore."
I mean, the game's now on Twitch, obviously, and as much I question how many people would want to watch a playthrough of something rather than experience when they're actually playing it. I switched on this morning to find just short of 11,000 people watching the top streamer, and this would have been when most of America was tucked up in bed. And I was told that earlier on the previous night, there was another streamer who had close to 18,000 viewers.
I mean, it's weird because you got to wonder, like, obviously, when people are defending streaming on the whole, it's like, not everyone can afford every game. So yes, sometimes just being able to watch someone that you like playing it is a half decent substitute. But you got to wonder how many people are like, well, I think I can afford it, but I don't know, I probably shouldn't. I can just watch most of it. That's a lost sale. I mean, in those sort of circumstances, maybe you shouldn't be spending all your money on video games. But as far as the marketing is concerned, are they not concerned that actually people are just going to watch streams and then probably not bother picking it up?
I'm kind of finding it weird, like that a lot of the guys that have got it now that are streaming it, like a lot of the sentiment I've seen on Twitter is that a lot of people are unsubscribing from them. Like, far from growing their base, it's like, no, we're all going to unsubscribe now. Like, surely that's gone the wrong way for them.
Yeah. But who's going to, even when you start the game, who's going to want to start watching lore videos, like, immediately? It's going to be a good couple of months until I kind of, rinse the game before I'm going to want to find out about characters and connections, and even, like, playthroughs of YouTube channels that I really adore. So, I don't know.
I saw a lore video of the first trailer, and I wanted to smash my head through the television. It's like, are we getting a bit weird about it now?
There's something quite nice with people getting caught up at the same time, like Epic Namebro is. But I don't know, having things that far in advance and kind of having all of these things ready to go on day one just seems like, well, again, I'd say who's going to be watching, but clearly with the Twitch stuff, I'm wrong. I mean, I mentioned that there's Japanese streamers that are running through it. Like, there's a really lovely lass called Flamingo Fuchsia, who's brilliant at the Souls games. Who, I noticed that she got maybe about 300 or so like people watching. Great, amazing lass, great with the community. No problem with that at all. And of the other ones that I saw, there's a lady called Jen Denise, who's again is really good company when you're on that stream, who I last saw beating Sir Alon in the Iron King DLC by punching him to death. Which is this is something that I went into. She might even have been soul level 1 on it, but this is something I went into and struggled with summons and holding a fire door. But she was instantly in Dark Souls 3 doing a Wombro run, which I think is amazing. Wow. That's doing something that nobody else is doing, and being sort of quite quirky and challenging yourself in a way that you've enjoyed challenging yourself in previous Souls games. So that's kind of cool. But
I don't want to know about that for another 3 weeks.
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Probably longer than that as well.
It's
obviously,
fine,
I
but it's like,
didn't want to
why-
watch it, but I liked the degree of creativity that was in there. That
Yeah, at least you just thought, everyone else is going to be doing a playthrough. Well, I'm going to do a fucking one bro.
I mean, this. Sean was asking me the other week about good Twitch streams to watch, and I like it when you get like Pierre Creates or April Ultima or a True Talent, when somebody is not only enjoying playing the game but talking to the community, and the community that they've got in there are really nice people, because it's almost like you've cultivated that degree of politeness and enthusiasm between them. But I'm wondering sort of how many of those I'll be able to delve into if people are further along than I am. I mean, I'm obviously going to have a bit of time on my hands, sort of, because I've got an operation sort of just before Dark Souls 3 launches. So all of my coverage will be through the dewy romantic hue of world-class drugs. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be weird to want to join in with people that I've seen, playing Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls, and then it's like, nope, I can't go there because you're in an area that I'm not in yet. So,
it's like having a bunch of channels from your telly taken away.
Yeah.
So we win. I watch a lot of Twitch, and there are some really lovely people in there. But I often find with Soul stuff that it's not the Illuminati, it's not the big streamers. It's those people that are playing it for the first time, or those smaller sort of groups that are just more intimate and more fun.
Here's what I don't understand as well. A lot of the guys, the big Souls people that are getting it early, are the PvP guys. Why are they getting it early? Why are we watching their like blind plays?
Right.
Yeah, man. A lot of the PvP community, are they called Soul Brand? Is that what they call themselves?
I don't know.
Not to throw too much shade, but like a lot of them are getting it, and it's like I don't understand the point, because there's not going to be any PvP for a while, surely. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a sour, grumpy man because we're not big enough to get free copies. Because I'm being a grumpy
Yeah,
Gus.
it's true. The PvP guy I'm looking forward to getting it, who will get it with the rest of us, is a gentleman called Christian, who's on Twitch as I Love Jessica Biel, who has a collection of characters where he will fight people and throw corrosive urns at people until he slowly breaks their gear, and then let them come at him and try and hit him and have no effect. And he's got a laugh like a devil Santa, and he plays really great pop music in the stream, and it's just funny. Revels in the hate mail that he gets. I'm looking forward to Christian getting his hands on it, because he's a good lad.
See, I actually a mate of mine is in Japan at the moment, and he was like, "Guys, put your orders in. I'll get you a copy of Dark Souls 3, and then I'll get on the plane and then throw them at you." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm probably gonna," because it's my birthday next week. So I was like, my brother was asking me what I wanted. I was like, "Right, well, I've got a mate who's in Japan, and he's said he can get me Dark Souls. So yeah, basically, you pay for that, and we'll call that my birthday present." And and now of course it's come out that the PS4 version, there's no English text in it.
No.
There is in the Xbox One version, but not in the PS4 version for some reason. So
I presume the Xbox One, because Xbox One does multi-region. That if you
PS4 does as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I presume it with the same way the exploit detects the region that you've got it in. If you got like a Japanese Xbox One disc and put it in an English Xbox One, you should get maybe English. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it does not work for PS4. I mean, obviously all the voices are in English because they always are, but the text is quite important. So
yeah, you need those items.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah.
So what are you getting for your birthday instead, and when is it?
It's 31st.
Okay.
I don't really know what I'm getting, to be honest. I've not really. Well, I think I better basically ask most people for money, because I've realised I'm nipping down to London for Resd.
Right, cool.
Because I'm I'm going down to London for Resd for one day, and then I'm dragging Andy Hamilton back up north to attend Chris Spann's wedding. So, So yeah, it's going to be like a flying visit to London. But realised I've got no money to do that with, so that's my birthday present, I think.
Well, tying in nicely to this, if you do want to buy Sean some Dark Souls 3 merchandise, there's a bit knocking about. Whee!
No, that's professional. That was lovely.
Yeah, thanks, man.
What's
so
happening?
best of all, there's a coffee mug. Right, disclaimer, you can probably also put other liquid, Movril, in it as well. It's a black mug with a big 3 in Roman numerals, but when you pour hot liquid in it, it builds up a bigger picture.
Oh my god. I'm looking at this right now.
Yeah, I'll have some of that.
Yeah,
so there
I need that.
There are 2 T-shirts. The shitest is just that 3 on a black T-shirt. But the best, bizarrely and brilliantly, the design fills up 3/4 of the front, and it's got the Ferran Knight from Dark Souls 2 in it. So that's on shop2.net. So I'm obviously having one of those. Game have a Dark Souls 3 hoodie, which is plain black zip up with Dark Souls 3 logo going across the middle of the chest, and then across the back on the top, as if it'd be like American footballer writing or whatever, but in the actual font is "You died" in red.
Great.
That's kind of nice.
It's a little bit unimaginative, and you can kind of get. Well, I'm wearing an Estus Flask hoodie now, but that was from QWERTY.
See, personally, I'm waiting for the QWERTY shirt where they put a minion on with Dark Souls and it will say like "prepared to banana" or something on it.
You know.
I reckon you're onto something there. Did you see that really shitty one that was on yesterday, which had Link at a bonfire?
Oh,
It was absolute bollocks. But
as someone who is literally just now getting into Zelda as well, like that offended me on both levels.
Oh, there was somebody that came into the store who had a T-shirt that said the hero of all space and time, and it had a TARDIS, and coming out of it was Link dressed as Doctor Who.
You won't believe how hard I just rolled my eyes at that.
But I like some of the stuff on like the
neck.
on your QWERTYs and like Redbubble and stuff like that. There's some good stuff there, but then you just get something that comes up on your Twitter feed and it's like, oh look, it's the Millennium Falcon, but Han Solo is Doctor Who and Chewbacca is Pikachu, and they're going along Rainbow Road, and it's I don't know. It's
Elementary, my dear Zelda.
They did. Was QWERTY had that amazing glow in the dark Artorias T-shirt, didn't they?
Yeah, I got it as a sweatshirt. It's lovely.
That's a really, really nice design. But like you say, it's populated by such unimaginative, like derivative bullshit as well. It makes
most of that stuff is on Redbubble all the time. And just the artists will occasionally sell it to a T-Fury or a QWERTY or anything. But I find that the T-shirts on Redbubble are generally sort of a better quality T-shirt than.
Yeah.
Although it reminds me of when I got a Dranglaic T-shirt, which was done like the Disney logo, and it had, instead of like a Tinkerbell, it had like a little dragon flying off, and it was really good. I really liked it. And I went into Iceland. I was getting my shopping, and there was a woman behind the till who was just like, "Oh, that T-shirt's not right. It's supposed to be Disney." I was like, "Oh yeah, it's just like a little homage to it, and it's it's a video game that I really like." And she was like, "That's not right. You're not worried about getting sued?"
Come on, not really.
Not personally.
That's not
but
real.
Perhaps not here with my fries and my yogurt peanuts on the truck. Maybe when I get home they'll be waiting for me.
I would kill for. Have you ever seen the sort of old style like railway posters advertising like the Lake District or Durham or whatever?
Okay,
and they've got like a really distinct sort of hyper real style to them. Basically one of those, but with any fucking Dark Souls location on it.
That would be cool.
They exist, don't they?
Do they?
Your boy, what's the artist? I want to say Gibbs Rainick.
Yeah, Gibbs Rainick. Yeah. Grossman. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's done one of those for Lord.
Shit.
They're really nice posters as well.
Yeah,
really
if
nice
not,
posters.
I've definitely absolutely seen that kind of thing before.
Maybe I've actually seen it, and now I'm just sort of claiming it.
Maybe.
As my own idea.
Yeah.
Did you see the T-shirt that Timur put up on Twitter yesterday? The Praise the Sun one. That's one of Gibbs Laudrin. Welcome to Laudrin. Post this.
Okay.
Sort of retweaked and stuff. So, right.
Yeah, the one with Soler looking over the mountains at the sea.
Yeah, I've got 3 spaces on my wall just over there that I'd love to put some massive sort of Dark Souls stuff behind. With shipping costs and all that kind of thing, it never quite pans out, sadly.
Yeah. Plus, frames are fucking expensive.
They are.
If you're getting something that isn't just like a standard size, and you can just grab one off eBay or whatever, like getting one made is not cheap.
Or clip frames from Wilco, as I probably do.
No, what you do is you buy a bigger frame, then you get a mount cut to fit. I used to work in the photo trade. I know these tricks.
That makes sense.
You.
Yeah.
Right. To bring us back on brand, Dark Souls arrived yesterday on Xbox One backwards compatibility.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I have never been more jealous of someone who owns an Xbox One right now.
Having had like a really long shift yesterday to go on my break and then have that tweeted at me, it was like, oh yes. So I got home and I hadn't played it for years. Easily pre-last gen Dark Souls 2, and any temptation of late was fueled by the knowledge that it was on its way. I think it was on that spinner rack that Microsoft showed off at E3 last year with the titles that were coming. So I knew it was due. I got in last night, popped it on. It's still a bit bloody special, isn't it?
It's just the best game. That intro is my favourite thing in the entire world. I think I could watch that in a loop and never get bored of it. Just the woman's voice when she's describing everything, it's just incredible. I love it.
And how
so
rad
much.
Nito looks right at the start.
Oh, yeah. My boy, Nito.
Your boy.
I love him. He's amazing. Such an incredible design.
So I took a bit of time to adapt back to the controls. I haven't been used to sort of DS2. Died to the Asylum Demon because I forgot that it's sort of right one that you have to hold to drop to twat him, and I eventually hit R2, just fell on the floor. I just got walloped. So I soon got up to speed and fired around Asylum, absolutely grinning like a loon. The journey to Violent continued with the bird, and again I was just properly beaming. I had a run round, hit a few bits, got followed right back to Firelink by a couple of skellies, and Firelink wouldn't light because they were still there, and I was like, what? I got the idea that I would bypass the Red Dragon and see if I could remember how to do it. So I went the long way round, and because I got the Master Key, I went to New Londo Ruins, then into Valley of the Drakes, ran past the Blue Lads, jumped into the lift, got the grass crest shield, panted it trying to get past the first of the bunny knights that I saw, then got up to the bonfire near Andre, then ran on to unlock the Undead Parish elevator back to Firelink, then sort of tried to get through the parish, down past the rats, back to the second bonfire in the Berg, potentially without losing or using any Estus, and realised how much I'd come to count on life gems in Dark Souls 2. Loved it lots. It looks lovely. A couple of places it maybe struggled a bit, inside the church in Undead Parish and on the bridge just before that as well, but I'm pretty sure the latter kind of struggled there on 360 as well.
So I was going to say, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh man, it'll fix all the frame rate issues. It's like, no, emulation is no joke. Like, it's hard work. If anything, it may run worse.
Yeah,
which is fine. You know, it's understandable. Well, it's not fine.
You've got a console kind of emulating another console while trying to run a game. Generally it's quite sexy, and I've not hit Blighttown yet, but I'd imagine if things are struggling on kind of Undead Parish, and obviously not massively, it's just you can notice it sort of chug a little bit sort of when I was running through, and the bridge I'm sure did that on 360. Then I'd imagine Blighttown probably won't be much better than it was, but it's still just lovely to have it on new gen, just sitting there on my hard drive, all sexy like. And I will continue on reacquainting myself with its loveliness, whilst obviously waiting for Digital Foundry to tell the world about crushed blacks and frame rate drops.
Oh, they already have. I saw them post. Eurogamer put a tweet out today to say that they've updated their Dark Souls coverage with the new stuff on it, and I hurriedly did not click on that.
There was what was it? There was something on when Deus Ex Human Revolution hit backwards compatibility. I was like, oh, cool. I played that originally, and I really enjoyed it on Wii U.
Yeah,
I'll pop that on.
And game.
I put it on. I was like, oh fuck, this is a bit quicker than it was on 360. I'm hammering through this. This is quite nice. And then looked at the Digital Foundry thing, and they just pulled it apart. And I'm like, people didn't used to play games like this. I'm sure I mentioned it last time, but Danny O'Dwyer was saying that, do you remember when you used to play games and you'd be on PS2 and you'd be like, you'd be walking into a curtain and out of it for about 5 minutes, going like, that's lovely, that's absolutely lovely. But now people get so hung up on frame rates. There was something on Quantum Break the other day where somebody where they were saying that it was 720p and not 1080p, and this person put that a lot of the effects that are being applied over the top are really hard to do and look amazing, but it's scandalous that a game isn't 1080p these days.
I put a tweet out about that. I was just like, because apparently Remedy came out and said like, here's the reasons why it's only 720. Like you said, like all the technology. And I was just like, I can't even imagine having to do something as dull as like, justify your frame resolution choice to your fans. And then someone, I'm not going to say his name, but he tweeted back and said something like, well, if it's trying to ape television shows, I'd expect it to be at least 1080p.
Oh, fuck off. Name and shame. Who was it?
Yeah. No, I it
was CJ, wasn't it?
I can't, I can't scroll down far enough in my notifications because I'm obviously very popular.
This all comes.
I'm
back
watching
around.
the TV now. It's 420. I think. I don't know. I don't care.
But it all comes back around to kind of this with the criticisms that were there for me of Unity. Like Paris was packed. A gunshot could go off in a crowd, and different pockets of people would react differently.
Yeah.
You move across the city, and you get slums. You get people that be drinking and playing music. That city was alive, and all this is going to say to developers is going to be right. If we're going for 1080p, because that's all people will accept, you just end up getting more and more people doing like Arkham Knight, where it's like, let's have an excuse to empty the city.
Yeah, that's what it would be. I mean, to be fair, Arkham Knight, it does kind of make sense with a narrative sense. But
I don't know. I come back around to like, comparing to like Witcher 3 as well. Like, give me a Gotham where you can show me arguments between husbands and wives. You can show me these pockets of people. You can give me a Gotham where I can see so much contrast and so much colour that I can see why the Dark Knight gives a fuck about this city within every single hue. And, again, the contrast of the big villains threatening that and the madness and maybe normal people. Create some new villains, some normal people that fall along the wrong side of the lines and become villains. And give me that.
Batman dealing with people who aren't necessarily supervillains, but just your everyday criminal.
Give me that contrast.
That would be
give
quite
me
cool.
something like sensuous that's different to this gen. Don't just give me a crisper version of what we had last time. That's not what I'm looking for.
The thing is, like, knocking down resolutions or like knocking down graphically doesn't always help. Like I was playing Broforce from the PSN, which, to be fair, is pixel art. Like, the SNES could look like that easily. And that game fucking chugs when it gets going. And, again, not to sound like Digital Foundry, but, like, the frame rate legitimately plummets and it slows down and you're sort of just jumping through soup in slow motion at points. It's like, how does this not work this good? Like, it's okay to complain about, frame rates when they're actively impacting your gameplay, but your classic one from last time, CJ, with the Division plummeting to 27 frames a second.
I don't know how it
plummeting.
Do you remember the Digital Foundry on Mario Kart where they said occasionally it loses half a frame?
59 frames a second, wasn't it? Or 59 and a half.
See, when Digital Foundry first started doing those articles, I was like, do you know what, it's not for me, but whatever, it fills a niche. harmless. No, it's not fucking harmless though, is it?
No, it's created a monster.
That army of wanks who care about this stuff far too much.
And they've all gotten weird about it.
Yeah.
But last gen, at least there was the thing where I was looking in going, well, I'm lucky enough to have a PS3 and a 360. Which one runs better and which one maybe doesn't screen tear, or are they much of a muchness? And you still get your bickering in the comments and stuff.
Yeah.
But now it's become the issue. And sometimes I've kind of gone like with Shadow Mordor. I've been like, oh, which version shall I get? And I've seen them side by side videos, and like that one, I'm sure it's 1080p on PS4, and they were saying like, oh, you know, it retains like a richer density of foliage or something. And like the Xbox One was 720p but held its frame rate a bit more. I saw them side by side. I couldn't. If you just swapped PS4 and Xbox One over, I still wouldn't have seen a difference.
That's pretty much how I see all of those videos that I've watched. I'm just like, where it splits out and it's got PC, Xbox, PS4. I'm just like, I don't see the difference, mate. Yeah. They all look the same. What are you talking about?
Well, you'll get your PS4 lot going Xbox lol. Your Xbox One sort of lot just going like, oh, it looks like a good game, quite fancy that. And then you get like,
you know, big generalisation.
Martin PC coming in with his rig. So yeah, it's all a little bit weird. And when I do get a world where I can lose myself in, honestly, that even if like there are frame rate drops or whatever, the last thing I could think about is that, like Dragon's Dogma.
But I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I can feel it looming up.
You look back at that, and I know the PS3 version kind of struggled maybe a little bit more with frame rate and stuff. When I was playing in that world, Christ, it just didn't even cross my mind because I was so lost in it.
I had that with Bayonetta. Like, everyone said the PS3 version was supposed to be unplayable mess, and I played through it. I was like, was that unplayable? It was fine. I don't understand.
They did do quite a big patch for it, didn't they? I think
when it was
released, it was much worse. But yeah, I mean, it's still regarded as like the shit version.
Yeah,
but like, it's like, this is the shit version. Well, the other version must be amazing then.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember last time I played a game and thought, no, this frame rate is too low. I cannot play it. I've never ever came across that. I think that these people obviously didn't grow up with a PC that could barely run Half-Life at the lowest settings.
Rubbish we used to put up with.
Like, yeah, I've only just got a laptop that can deal with Half-Life 2 at the maximum like resolution, max settings, and it's amazing. But like, I've had to struggle with computers where I have to dial everything down, and I still get like a fairly chuggy frame rate. I must just be used to it, but I just don't notice that kind of thing anymore. It's really not a thing for me.
It's like a lot of people are wise to the fact that like a strong art style trumps fidelity every time.
Absolutely.
Certainly when you're looking back on all, you look at something like Okami or whatever. But, or Wind Waker versus Twilight Princess to look at, like there's no contest. But even in terms of like, if you're trying to make things look realistic, if you look at things like Ice Enhancer for GTA 4. Like, that looks better than GTA 5. And all it is a lighting mod. Like, and it just makes you think, like, even when it comes to realism, we're still focusing on the wrong things. We're still looking at texture resolution and polygon count and stuff. And it's like, no, actually, just get the fucking lighting right. That's
yeah. I mean, remember how good Dark Souls 2 looked when it had that lighting engine implemented in those early trailers. It looked absolutely incredible.
That lighting engine was there in the demo builds as well when I went to a show in Manchester and played it, and it was there, and it was like, this is very pretty.
Well, when they brought it back for Scholar as well, the moments that it's used are gobsmacking.
People are morons. I think that's the...
That's the takeaway.
The short answer.
And on that bombshell.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Foundry podcast.
I think that's a good place to leave it. I have properly enjoyed this natter with you, gentlemen. It has been awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I'm not really, because basically this has been like warming up for actually doing shows again, because we've not done any Midnight Resistance for like 3 months, but we're on the verge.
I know you said you're kind of bursting to talk about other stuff, so if you ever fancy talking about the other stuff that you're bursting to talk about, we will easily have you back on Know the Humanities to talk about the other stuff as well.
Cool, thank you.
No,
Gav,
we won't.
where can people... Oh, vetoed, sorry, John.
You what, pal?
Gav, where can people find you and your shares?
Yes, they can. At Gav Weir on the Twitter, and if you really want to read about more thoughts of mine on computer games, you can check out youdied.co.uk. That's my blog.
Aren't you making a book?
No, that's actually not me. Yeah, you.
I bet they were pissed off you got that.
Oh, I bet they were. I love that they might have been Googling, right, let's get that URL sorted, youdied.co.uk. Shit, it's already been taken by this fucking blog.
You died, you will go on my first whistle. You died, you will go on my second whistle. Gladiators ready. Apologies to Scottish listeners. Sean, if you'd like to tell people about Midnight Resistance and your good self.
Midnight Resistance is a shit blog about games. It is also a podcast.
Ooh.
We've been on hiatus for a bit for secret reasons, which will soon be revealed. I think most people who follow us sort of know what's going on. Our website was old and rubbish, and we're trying to sort it out. I also, in my own right, do a bit of freelance here and there, although I haven't done so much lately. I reviewed The Witness in January. That was the last thing I did. Did that for the
I
Telegraph.
heard you mentioned on a GameSpot sort of live chat, and they were like, "Oh,
really?
It's been reviewed by Sean Belfry." I was like, "Yes!"
Jesus. What game was that? I think the only thing I've done for GameSpot were Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and on the opposite end of the quality scale, Devil's Third.
Ooh.
All right. Yeah.
Ooh, that game.
So,
Good frame rate though.
Midnight Resistance was a big influence on us starting to do this, so
thank you very much.
Rather lovely to have you on, sir, and thank you for that.
Cheers.
But yeah, we shall see everybody next time. I hope you've enjoyed listening to the Natter. Follow these gentlemen if you don't already, and we will see you soon. Good night all.
Bye.
Cheers.